This conference will now be recorded.
Well, folks, I'm going to call the meeting to order, and before we get started with our regular meeting, we have some special guests with us. We have Gerald and Shirley Mayer. They've been together for 65 years. That's pretty incredible, actually, to say the least. So if it be possible, can we get a picture with you folks up here? First of all, congratulations. Thanks for letting me have a picture with you folks. I appreciate that. Nice to meet you. I'm Bart. Take your time. When I was campaigning Dallas, when I was campaigning federally, George, he used to be a two nights guy, but there was a stand about 6 feet high, and he was a really fit guy. He jumped right up on the top of this podium, and he said, "This is what we have to do as politicians to get your attention." Yeah. But the fact that he could jump that high blew me away. George, remember George from Jasper? Oh. during the federal run. All right, so that was a great way to start off with an anniversary celebration. So any additions to the agenda? I'll go to administration first.
One update, item number 35D, we've got a meeting date that council needs to be aware of, Holy Trinity Achievement Awards, October 18th, 2024.
I think originally I said I would attend, but I can't because I'll be gone.
Also, item 21, we do have a report included for Brazeau Foundation. I'm going backwards, you realize, but...
I see that.
And item 5...
On page 13,
Go ahead.
motion number 549. It's kind of repeating itself in the last sentence, or last part of the sentence, where it says, used for the purchase of fire equipment and the fire apparatus. And then it continues on, that can be used for the deployment from revenue received from the expenses. To me, that's not very clear, but I think if we would put down funded from deployment of firefighters and equipment to help provincial wildfires. Anyway, you can see what it, to me, it's not clear, at least, why I read that.
Just technically, you're not supposed to change the minutes.
But I mean, it's just my
Yeah.
thoughts. I mean, you can do what you want,
Okay.
council.
I would suggest you just leave it.
Okay, if it is,
Okay.
that's the decision, that's
Give it-
fine.
Okay, thanks. All right, with that, motion to approve the minutes. Don't jump to the microphones. Kara?
I move the October 1st regular council meetings as presented.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay, follow-up action list. Rudy, anything you need to highlight there for us?
A couple of items advancing, Reeve, to this meeting. We have a report on the 492 safety investigation. There will be a report and recommendations coming forward this morning. And as well, the request by council for administration to do some work on control of cats in the county. That will be coming forward as well this morning on the agenda.
It's too bad we couldn't turn that into economic development, and then it'd be actually quite interesting. Glenn?
So on our minutes, 563 on page 16, 563, 2410-01, moved by Glenn Gunderson to direct administration to investigate options
Which
for...
page? I gotta catch up.
Oh,
to you,
sorry,
Glenn.
page 16.
Just wanna,
I just had a question about, this one wasn't added to the follow-up action list. 56324-10-01. Is that something that should be added or should not be added? Moved by Glenn Gunderson to direct administration to investigate options for WEC advertising at the EDA conference.
Through the Reeve, certainly, Councillor Gunderson, that could be added to the action list because that's something that we would need to undertake.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
all right. No action on that except for adding it to the action list. Okay, we've got BDO zone rating. Rudy, you did the initiative on this one here, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I just wanted to give council a quick update on some of the work that's been ongoing here through administration, and it ties in well with the workshop that we had on Friday in Olds regarding the concept of getting ready to market your community. And this is one of those initiatives, and I was connected with a company by the name of EcoStrat, and they introduced me to this concept of BDO zone ratings. And what it is it's an opportunity to quantify and ultimately market to interested companies the biomass resources that exist in a community. So again, as I mentioned at the introduction, this is one of those asset items that we could use in terms of regional readiness for ourselves in terms of marketing clean energy opportunities for Brazeau County. When I talked to the company and had the presentation from them regarding the zone rating, Their thought is, and they're dealing with some financial institutions that are actually looking at investing upwards of $1 billion in the coming years in these clean energy opportunities. But they were looking for a framework to quantify those opportunities for businesses. And they came up with the concept through EcoStrat of designing a system for a rating similar to the financial ratings that we're used to. So you would have a AAA, a AA, or a single A rating, depending on the biomass resources that you have available to you. So I think we're familiar with the financial ratings. This would be a similar opportunity. And it's one of the items that's included in the ratings. So if you look at the due diligence categories that they're looking for, there's 3 pillars that they would look for in doing these ratings. Of course, the feedstock supply, whether it be forestry biomass, biomass that we've created from production in the oil industry, or in fact agricultural biomass. So they will measure and quantify that. And then they'll look at the supply chain strength, the marketability of the products once they're refined and presented. And one of the things that we've talked a lot about in this county is the infrastructure, the ability to actually produce the product and move it out of the county to the markets. So those are the 3 pillars in their examination of giving an organization or a region a rating for this biomass. So to the question of where this biomass rating comes from, they presented an interesting slide on the work that they've done to create the rating framework. So it was issued within the framework of national standards for biomass supply chain risk, and it was developed based on 6 years of development and analysis through the U.S. Department of Energy. And now it's a system that's been accepted and is being used globally to try and identify the biomass that's in any given region. So I believe, according to the slide, I think in Canada this standard has been in place since about 2021. So fairly new, but it is in place. There's a slide there that you can read at your leisure, and it just gives you some of the examples of how they would go through the calculations to rate a region, and they've used a Nova Scotia example. One of the things that was of interest to me as I worked through this and chat more with this company is that we're familiar with Invest Alberta, which exists here in the province. There's also an Invest in Canada initiative that the federal government has, and Invest in Canada has recognized this model as a model for quantifying biomass waste in differing regions and its use for cleaner energy. So what that means is that it's not only a recognized standard, but that marketability moves up through Invest Canada to those interesting businesses that are looking for places to set up shop. And Invest Canada is promoting this zone rating now through over 160 offices around the world. There's a list of communities that have been already flagged as having a biomass rating. 2 I'll mention of interest. I've actually reached out to them but have not heard back yet. But the County of Vermilion and the County of Flagstaff in Alberta have both received biomass ratings for agricultural waste. So there's companies looking at setting bioenergy industries up in those regions using the agricultural waste, grain straws and other things to produce energy. So it does exist in Alberta already, but only for agricultural waste. So in a nutshell, if we were to go down this road, it quantifies the biomass resources that we have in the county, and that automatically links us to interested businesses that are looking for that biomass to set up clean energy initiatives. And as I mentioned, they're looking to invest $1 billion, so it would link us to that capital and to those businesses that are looking for a place to call home. This is at the early stages. I've had one fairly lengthy conversation with them. There's more certainly to come. It's something that's not free of charge because there's a lot of work that goes into getting the rating in terms of gathering the data and establishing the resource base, et cetera. Their early projections from what they've seen so far in Canada is it will probably cost us between $75,000 and $100,000. I know that there are at least 2 grant options, one federally and one provincially, that would cover the vast majority of those costs. So it's my expectation that I'll continue to work on this and fine tune this to the point where we'll be able to bring this initiative to council. But I wanted to let you know that we were working on it, and it seems like a good opportunity to, in the work that we talked about on Friday, to get our community ready to market to these interested companies in alternative energy production.
Questions, councillors? Well, just my initial reaction, it seems like a good idea to move forward and get ourselves poised in a position of being ready. It parallels some of the work we've done on WEC as well. We had the fellow Terry Brazeau that wanted to map out the county for the rare earth metals, utilizing abandoned wells and things like that, and then by applying the same seismic sort of equipment, except doing it vertically down a well, you can map out just how much rare earth metals there are in Brazeau County, and then you would market that for businesses that wanted to actually explore and develop those rare earth metals. So we talked about it at WEC in that regards, but I think it's a good idea. At least that's my initial reaction. What's your thoughts there, folks? Donna?
My reaction was that there's such a wide diversity of different places. Like you've got Grand Prairie and Canuso. Like Canuso is maybe
Got a little town.
100 people
Yeah.
nowadays. But so yeah, if they're working with Canuso, they like it's
It's broad enough that you could have a small community or a big community.
exactly, yeah.
And Reeve, to your point about the current work of WEC, I believe, based on my initial investigations, it does dovetail very nicely with the work that's already been done. We've got a couple of grants in motion regarding sector development strategies and economic assessment, and I think that, from what I know today, this would add well to the resources that we were already working on to promote the region.
Well, I was just noticing driving and all the land that's been cleared because of the fire, and I see all these great big piles of biomass sitting there that are probably gonna just get burnt. But then, if you've ever, well, Kara, you've been in the helicopter flying over the FMA, and you just see these trash piles all over the place, like just such a waste of biomass, that if there was a way to economically move that stuff or process it on site, you'd have a ton of biomass. And that has to be pointed out, because they're not gonna see that from inside an office building. We're gonna have to tell them all the places that we initially see where there's biomass, and then they may have a different outlook as well. What are you guys' thoughts? Well, then let the marmots have a home, you know, but we can use some of it for making gasoline. Glenn, Anthony?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, especially if the province or the federal will help us pay for some of this work. It's not unreasonable, and it gives us something that we can at least offer to companies coming this way.
Well, it shortens their search. If somebody was looking, they'd have to do this study, whereas here, once we do it, we own the information, and we can promote it out to as many different companies as we see fit.
Yeah, and as well, as I mentioned, it's my understanding that once we get the rating, Invest in Canada is also promoting our region to those interested parties. So I think it would help to extend that reach for us, for sure.
Yeah, and start building a relationship with Invest Alberta, like we kind of talked about at WEC as well. So, anybody got any concerns? No concerns? Okay. We'll move on. We should have a motion to at least accept our manager's initiative here. Donna?
I move to accept the BDO zone rating due diligence that the CAO is presenting.
Discussion? All those in favor? That's carried unanimous. Oh. People just know when I'm in a meeting. Don't get any calls for 2 days, and then I sit down at a council meeting and the phone runs. Go ahead, Glenn.
We should accept, well, the follow-up, the action list should be accepted for information as well. I move to accept the follow-up action list for information.
Discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay. Land use bylaw amendments bylaw. Whenever you're ready, take it
Okay.
away.
Good morning, Raven Council.
Morning.
Rezoning application 24A-010, located on pages 30 through 42 of the agenda package, has been submitted to rezone approximately 14.4 acres from agricultural to agricultural holdings within a portion of Southeast 1049-6 west of the 5th Meridian, which would allow the subdivision of an equally sized parcel. A public hearing for this bylaw has been scheduled for November 19th at 10 a.m. The subject lands are located immediately west of Highway 759 and immediately north of Highway 39, from which all parcels will have access, and that is reflected in the land location map on page 32. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the county's municipal development plan, and the lands do not fall within any intermunicipal development plan or area structure plan. Excerpts of the relevant policy documents are included in appendices E and F on pages 38 through 42. So we are presenting for first reading bylaw 1191-24 for the rezoning of approximately 14.4 acres from agricultural to agricultural holdings within a portion of Southeast 1049-6 west of the 5th Meridian. Thank you.
You know, I'll let council, make a motion. I'm just looking kitty corner there. There's 4 parcels out of that 1/4. I don't know if you have the information, but maybe at next council or even just a note in my basket. Why are they allowed to do 4 parcels? If you take a look there, you see the 4 in the kitty corner up to the north? It's not part of this subdivision. Like I said, it's just a secondary sort of thought when I was looking at the application.
Yep, I can check into that.
Yeah, but no rush, just next council meeting is more than enough. But that's got nothing to do with the subdivision. What's your thoughts, Glenn?
Through the chair to the senior development officer, I just had a question. Page 30, it says the property is located northwest of the intersection of Highway 759, Highway 39, from which both the proposed lot and the remnant parcel will have access. But then when I flip over to page 33, on the map, it shows that the subdivision will cut off the driveway from the landowner that's wanting the parcel. Is that going to impact him if somebody buys that remnant parcel and then says, you're not allowed to use my driveway? Is that?
Through the chair to Councillor Gunderson, what is being proposed by the applicants is a mutual approach. So they would share the access that is existing, subject, of course, to Alberta transportation approval. So that would become one of the conditions of subdivision would be an access easement agreement that would be registered on the title. As practice, Brazeau County is a party to that, so that the document can't be discharged by one party or the other, but it would remain.
Oh, it's forever then once that's set
Yes.
in?
Yeah, unless, if in the future each individual landowner chose to develop their own approach and it was mutually agreed, then the county would allow it to be discharged. But otherwise, one party can't just unilaterally make that decision.
As a property owner, would I want that line on the other side of the road just to ensure that the property I'm not going to get, that there won't be an issue with it? Or that's the way that it's best to have it?
We did, make the suggestion to the owner to choose one side or the other. We didn't dictate which it needed to be, just because It's at their discretion. They initially had, I believe, the property line kind of bisecting, but generally surveyors don't like to do that because it potentially puts a pin at risk of being destroyed if road work was being conducted. So typically, the surveyors require that it be on one side or the other, and it would be an access easement. It would affect one owner versus another at some point.
Yeah, if I would just prefer if it didn't affect the actual landowner. It looks like he's gonna lock himself out. Well, you said he won't be able to, but yeah, if it was mine, I'd rather have that line over, but I'll leave that for them to make changes if they want. Thank you.
But the mutual approach would be wide enough so that each landowner would have access to their particular piece of property, correct?
I think maybe I used the wrong terminology because it really wouldn't be a mutual approach, it would be an access easement. Yes, typically a mutual approach would straddle the property line and allow access to both properties, but because this one will be wholly on one parcel, the access would be from that parcel onto the adjacent land.
Oh, I see. Anthony?
It looks like, I mean, the approach would go in, still staying on the remnant, but then if, with the condition that Shander is talking about, it allows for the acreage owner, as his roads cuts off to the right, for him at that point to then have his own driveway, and the common approach would be the part going northward before that bend where that C is there. So that way both of them have access, and with that registered caveat, I think it would work. But, no, but see, I'll show you.
You need a pointer, a laser pointer.
You're going in here like this, and then you're going over this way to the acreage. So right here is the only point where the acreage guy, has concern that this guy would jump up. This guy has got access because he is continuing on with this remnant, and the dual condition of this allows for this guy to have access right here, the acreage guy.
Through the chair, just to provide clarity, that is part of the reason that the county is a party to that agreement, would be that one landowner can't block access from the other. We would be a party to that and ensure that access remains for both landowners.
The driveway, I guess. If he's cutting himself off from his own driveway, then that other landowner could put up a gate, but give him the combination, but just make it miserable for him to get in, I'm thinking, right? But it's up to the landowner, but yeah, like I said, I'd rather have, if it was me, I'd have put that line on the other side of the road to have some control over it.
Yeah, it's an interesting development. Those parcels in green on the bottom, are they considered subdivided out? Or do they have different land titles to them? The three bottom ones, you cross the highway, to me, it looks like it's part of that quarter section?
Yes, to the chair, it is one legally titled parcel currently. Everything shown in green is one parcel.
Oh, everything showing green is one? But
Yes. Currently, out of that quarter section, only this funny jagged shape on the southwest corner
So
is
even
the
though
only
they're-
subdivided parcel.
Even though they're subdivided or separated by the highway, they're still considered part of the bigger parcel?
It is part of the parent parcel, and they are undevelopable based on
Size.
setback requirements, so that's kind of unusable land, unfortunately, on that side of the highway.
Interesting.
Potentially what I could see, in the future, perhaps, just would be if it were subdivided and consolidated with the partials south of it, and then it would become somewhat usable by being consolidated with the larger pieces.
That opens up another can of worms, whether or not that landowner would be interested in that,
Exactly,
too.
yeah,
So, okay, interesting puzzle, that's for sure, this one.
yes.
So we still need a motion to go to first reading, if that's what you guys want to do. Anthony?
I move the council give first reading to bylaw 1119-24. 1191, thank you. Dash 24?
Okay, discussion?
Thank you.
All those in favor? Carried unanimous, all right, thank you. Okay, we've got WEC update, Brian Senyo. After we had to reintroduce myself to him, I haven't seen him for so long, I didn't recognize him.
Is this, okay, yeah, it's on, great. Okay, hi everyone, good to see everyone. Just here to provide an update on WEC as well as immediate term lobbying priorities. I think a lot of the comments that Rudy made at the onset of the council meeting today will dovetail quite nicely with what you see today. So with that, I'll get into it, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to interject as I begin the presentation here. So just wanted to start things off with an overview of advocacy work that's been undertaken to date and the successes that were had. So first and foremost, most recently, the grant funding for both the NRED grant and the SCOPE grant, culminating in roughly $90,000 to $100,000. The SCOPE grant will be used to essentially quantify the county's economic contributions to the province with the pre-existing industrial base that's already in place. Obviously, that dovetails with short-term advocacy in the sense that if you can build an argument predicated upon, you know, the economic contributions to the county, what you're contributing to provincial tax base, and then drawing that back to whatever ask it is, whether it's capital, healthcare, et cetera, gives that nice foundation. NRED as well, which as CAO Friesen alluded to, will help with the development of sector development plans, which could be used to, you know, support work with respect to biomass, hydrogen, geothermal, et cetera, to help us better market the county moving forward. I guess you could say, rewinding back in time here, linear assessment, so led by Councillor Heinrich and Reeve Guillon, when we were engaging the province with respect to changes to that framework. Serendipitously or not, 3 out of 4 of the proposals accepted were tabled by the county during the initial meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs back in 2021 or 2022, I believe. The Police and Crisis Action Team, which was led by Kara, we secured funding for that through the province, working in concert with the RCMP. The CT scanner, they introduced a first-of-a-kind pilot project in the county to increase scope of practice for lab and x-ray technicians, which better enabled head and neck scans. Healthcare professional recruitment and Grow Your Own program, which I believe was recently started within the past month. Again, that was something led by Kara and Reeve Guillon. We had a series of meetings with the health minister as well as AHS zone directors, which, you know, spoke to the issue of physician recruitment and healthcare issues in the county, and I know there was some work going on as well, I think, with the town along those same lines, so call it siloed collaboration, if you will, but again, ended in a positive outcome. And then lastly, we did some work on ICF amendments. We led and passed the resolution, I think it was last fall or 2 falls ago at convention. Subsequently met with the former Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister Schultz, and work is underway to amend the framework as stands. So immediate term lobbying priorities, I guess what I'd say is where we're at in the political cycle right now more broadly is a pretty integral time, because right now we have the government which, and they're beginning to formulate Budget 2025 and decipher how money is going to be spent moving forward. So that presents us with a broader opportunity in terms of figuring out what do we want to lobby for and advocate for between now and the composition of the budget. So all that to say, you know, now's a good time to kind of identify where our priorities are, compose funding requests, and secure meetings with appropriate ministers and stakeholders inside government. On the right-hand side of the screen, yeah, you'll pretty much see what I basically discussed. Budget submissions are underway, budget development is underway, business plan development for various ministries, well, all ministries. Fall legislative session starts in roughly 2 weeks, followed by the UCP AGM, which will be on November 1st to 2nd. That will dovetail with a leadership review of Premier Smith. And then we can expect the budget to be tabled sometime between February and March of 2025. And that's when we'll be able to decipher whether our asks were acted upon or not. The elephant in the room, I think, as I understand right now, is Highway 621. So on August 1st, we received correspondence from Minister Dreeshen, which committed to funding a wide load warning system, slide repairs, as well as a soft commitment to consider highway improvements as part of Budget 2025. So we didn't get the win we wanted for in terms of, getting an actual funding commitment, but there are little nuggets here that suggest we're making some headway. When you dissect the letter, I guess what I'd say is you see little tidbits in there that suggest our message and our approach is on the right path in terms of linking capital requests to the economic prowess of the region and investment attraction. So 2 quotes really stood out to me. One, socioeconomic factors such as revenue generation and other provincial priorities factor into funding allocations for highway projects. And then the second bullet there is essentially an admission that, yes, this route is quite integral for things like market access and the movement of oversized and overweight loads coming from the Edmonton region. So all that to say, as I said at the onset, it really verifies that regional economic activity and traffic volumes, which are precipitated, of course, by investment attraction, are a precursor to unlocking capital funding.
I'm just going to jump in here. I think we need to be more engaged with Weyerhaeuser as a partner and a supporter of this particular project. I was talking to Darren that does a lot of work with them, and he thinks that they would be an excellent advocate as well to do that as well. You could probably propose a question to Weyerhaeuser saying, what do you guys contribute to the economic generation of funding for not just Brazeau County, but for the province, from the mills and the work that's done out here? Because even though we said we're roughly 300 million of revenue generation, I think we've underestimated that significantly with all the other stuff that's there. We just went, a cursory, and we had that other CAO, I forgot his name. Oh, I remember. But, they just took that as a quick snapshot of the revenue. And I think if we take a look at the revenue, not just annually, but over the last 40 years, it would probably pave all the roads in Alberta at least once. And that's just me speculating, but I think we undersold what this community has contributed to the provincial coffers. And so we can go annually, but we might as well go back 50 years or since the oil and gas industry has started, the billions and billions of dollars that have filled that 48-inch pipeline to Edmonton. And we are only getting a garden hose trickling back. So we need to really sell ourselves a little stronger. So I'm not criticizing what we've done so far. I just think we need to add to it, and we need to bring Weyerhaeuser on board, both from an analysis of what they think they contribute to the provincial economy, as well as an advocate for this road. Their loads aren't necessarily over width, but certainly they're limited by the weight on the Lodgepole Bridge, that they can only go so heavy. So anyway, that's just a note to add on. Carry on.
Yeah, the numbers that were presented by Kent, and that was denoted, that was exclusively oil and gas. So to your point, the number is probably much higher, but we wanted to provide an accurate number given the calculations we could do in-house, which essentially led to the 300 million being presented as is. And as I said, to the scope grant, which we successfully obtained, will support us in really quantifying the bigger picture, right? And that'll give us a pretty accurate number, as well as a reputable number coming from a firm who undertakes this type of work.
Well, and when you think about the income tax too of all the service companies in this area, that's a significant amount of money that's being generated for other levels of government.
Yeah. Any other comments? Hearing none. So tactically, how do we approach this? Well, I think it's, building upon, the meeting we had with Minister Dreeshen in April, and a subsequent engagement I've had with the local MLA. We want to get that formal budget submission in. We may or may not want to consider collating our own data on that highway. The correspondence somewhat insinuates that it was last done in 2022. I don't know if anything's changed since then, but it's just an option, I guess, that as a collective we could look at. And then, it's submitting the budget submission. I mean, mid-October is pretty ambitious. I think as long as it's in by beginning of November, we'll be fine. And then, queue up a meeting with Minister and MLA Boychenko to coincide with that budget submission. CAO Friesen and I are actually meeting with Andrew on Friday, I do believe. So at that time, the hope is, when he does his capital submission list to the province as part of the MLA's quote-unquote budget submission, that 621 is at the top of the list, and we leverage that to the fullest degree possible, kind of harnessing that momentum we have to date. Another comment, I think it was Councillor Heinrich that brought it up recently, was Crown land acquisition. So I was hoping just to discuss that briefly. It's an issue that actually doesn't sit anymore with environment and protected areas. It's now with forestry and parks. So just wanted to take some notes and kind of brainstorm here, the parcels of land under consideration. What's our premise or argument for wanting the land? What would the land be utilized for? So I was just hoping to open that up for a bit of a discussion if possible.
We've had an ongoing request for land around Lodgepole without much success, but we could add that on there, and that's for business and residential growth out there. So that's one area. This land here, I believe it's zoned already for us for commercial development just across the road here. And then for me, I don't know if we can pick actual sites, but rather pick what a site could be used for. So, so far we've let industry decide where they want to be, whether it's Recover or Base Element or many of the other businesses. They've decided where they want to develop, and then we rezone it. So it's more of a philosophy that if we're given Crown land, we need it for development, but picking and choosing, I would say, put it here. And that may or may not be the right place that industry is looking for. But if we combine what we're talking about right now and that checklist that Natalie had presented, I think that would, Natalie Gibson was a consultant at the greatest pitch in Olds, and she had quite a checklist that people are using, and it seems to be quite successful. Some of our stuff is already there, but I think it just gives a more comprehensive list of all the things that people that are going to choose a site would be looking for these things: clean water, wastewater, sewers. And we've done so much stuff in upgrading all of this stuff, the roads, the water systems, the sewer systems, that we just need to put it into a sellable envelope. And she had about 30 or 40 checklists or something like that. But it just added a lot of things to look at. Say, if a site selector is going to use you, they're going to check off these boxes. That's what they're looking for. Tax regime is part of it. Anyway, there was about 40 points that seemed like a very thorough checklist to see if we're going to pick a site, does it have all these things? Is there a good road? Is there water available? Is there sewer available? Is there waste management? Is there, this whole checklist? So I thought it was quite thorough, but we need to, I think, act on that and get that list as soon as possible, and then marry it to what WEC has already been working on, because we've done a lot of the groundwork, and we probably cover over half of the checklist already, maybe more. Anthony, I'm just trying to burn up all this time because I'm leaving at 11. And
No,
you
but
guys-
Brian, what I was trying to get at is, when we have some of our proposals that we're looking at bringing in through WIC, or, different scenarios that come forward, like the one that was here a couple of years ago, kind of trying to remember the name of the company right now, it doesn't come to me. They were wanting to develop, as it turned out, in the middle of the residential, or what I call developed areas. And the type of facility that one seemed to be giving the impression was, it's not favorable to have that type of development in what I would call the middle of the developed areas, green areas. So I think we should, even if it's not specific locations, we should have some general areas that we figure, and I guess generally you can make it as general as you want, whether you want to kind of bring in or leave it quite wide, but leave some expectations that the province would quickly move along with making available lands in the green area for the types of projects, like, I think it was Fiscal or whatever it was, that name, Bart?
Yeah, fiscal is what it
Fiscal
was.
was the one that came in last time we had troubles with because of public perception of how it fitted with the community. So if we could get, what I call quick access, because we're finding that with the lodgepole request, we're not getting any land. So we need to have, if we expect to be able to get these companies in at a timely time where they want basically some kind of shovel-ready almost access to these lands, we can't wait that we have to go through the province and wait years to get access to that piece of land. So that's why I'm saying we need to have this dialogue with them, and maybe even we can decide how broad a scope, or how honed in we want to make it in terms of the region, the spot, exactly like the quarter section or whatever. But we should have that understanding from the province so that we get that quickly to facilitate this development. That's what I'm trying to get at.
You're talking exactly what I was saying there, is trying to get all the site selector criteria available without picking a site, but you could say no landfill or no heavy industrial within 2 miles of a hamlet, so that gives you a broad area to avoid some of the pitfalls that when you move industrial traffic to a residential area. So it has to be away from residential areas. Whether it's Buck Creek, whether it's Lindale, instead of actually picking a quarter section or picking a chunk of land, you just say it can't go when you're within 2 miles of a hamlet, or something like that.
Okay, but Bart, even more than that though, like the Fiscal facility was one that had, at least it seemed like it had overwhelming dislike by neighbors that were farming neighbors. And it's not necessarily that it's going to be just like a landfill. It's going to be something that has traffic issues, noise, pollution, the potential contaminants that could be coming from it. Those are all factors that we want those in more remote areas, rather than having them, what I'm going to call in the green area, or the white area, which is more settled area. That's the kind of thing that I'm trying to say we need to have established with the province, that they're ready to give us access to those green quarters so that we can get this development more quickly moving.
Any other comments? It almost sounds like you were at our conference there, Anthony. Cody?
So this isn't, I'm not necessarily advocating for this idea, but I had this idea while we were at our, I don't want to call it a conference, but I don't know if I want to call it a workshop either, but we were all there. But I was thinking about how difficult it is to get Crown land, and how we had to have specific purposes for it and that sort of thing. But we don't necessarily have to deal with all that headache if we're acquiring private land. And while that is picking specific sites, and I know that we don't really want to do that, but if somebody wants to sell their property and we buy it and turn it into municipal reserve or whatever it is we want to do with it, that's another option that we can go through. And like I said, I'm not necessarily advocating for it. It's just an idea I had.
If you take a look at the book, I've mentioned this before, but I think we've got 150 different parcels from 2 acres to full quarter sections. I think there's 11 full quarter sections that we already have in the county, and they're usually identified with a different brown on the maps there. but we can get that information. But somewhere there's a book about an inch thick of all the properties we have.
So, correct me if my understanding is incorrect here, but I think the premise or the foundation upon which we would approach the province is essentially that of, look, we have a concerted focus on investment attraction in the county. We need, obviously, land and space, which is appropriate given ratepayer concerns and needs. We've outlined, parcels of Crown land X, Y, and Z. Conceivably, we'd like to begin a discussion on acquiring these lands for the purposes of economic growth. Am I out to lunch, or?
No,
Is that it?
you're bang on there, Brian. And I think having the site selection criteria set in place would help as well. So the one we're doing with Rudy would be a good example. If we do one for Terry Brisbois with the seismic, vertical seismic for rare earth metals, and if we have 4 or 5 site selector criterias, that's talking in a way, if Anthony believes it or not, what he's saying there is that you have to set the site selection so that it encourages development away from residential places, including the traffic that comes with it, the noise, the pollution, whatever. So that's where we're at there. Anthony?
And maybe in our trying to illustrate the need for this to the province, if we showed generally the time it takes currently with getting provincial lands turned over, and the need for them being better able to live up to their red tape reduction strategy, I think we can then show the case of what it currently is and how it's a problem, show their initiatives that they already have in place that should help drive this momentum to make land more readily available, meaning the Red Tape Reduction Act. So use their own tools to help us to get these lands and to show them that the current timelines aren't adequate. That's, I think, we need to use strategies when we're talking to them, and real strategies that help us show the difficulties we're facing.
Okay, carry on, Brian.
Okay, so just want to kind of give a primer on GR and government relations and how that essentially dovetails with WEC. So, cornerstone of any sort of government engagement strategy and messaging is understanding how your priorities align with the provinces and what you can do to advance both your priorities and the government's in a manner that's mutually beneficial. So that really underpins the art around government relations and advocacy in a nutshell, right? It's defining where those synergies are and how you can advance mutually beneficial outcomes. So when we look at, for example, municipal and transportation policy, and where you find government policies articulated in many different documents, whether it be business plans, mandate letters, climate change strategies, et cetera, that's where you decipher the direction of government and where it's going and how you can make sure that your message and your strategy resonates with them when you engage, right? So municipal affairs business plan, the very first outcome in there is municipalities are strong partners in supporting and enabling economic prosperity in their communities. That you can obviously dovetails with WEC and the messaging behind WEC as a whole. Part and parcel of that, the notion of economic growth and job creation is paramount for this administration, as it has been, the previous Kenney administration, right? That really hasn't changed. Transportation and economic corridors, it clearly articulates that capital improvements are predicated upon economic growth and the notion of market access. So you can kind of see how our messaging and our arguments to date have been framed around these core pieces. Energy policy, I think safe to say this is an energy county. We have oil and gas, large presence of it, as well as various other assets and commodities potentially that can be grown into the future. So what's the priority for the province from an energy perspective? It's twofold, right? It's ensuring that the oil and gas sector is preserved and maintained. And how do you do that? It's through enabling new and emerging technologies such as CCUS, in the case of oil and gas and others, to support carbon neutrality and net zero 2050, which is a commitment of the province. They want to obtain that goal, right? So, as I said, I think I know Brazeau is an energy county at its core. So how do we take what's already here and leverage it and help transform it into the next wave of energy resources? And I think there's a lot of, there's some breadcrumbs here that we can follow. Obviously, we have industrial waste feedstocks, which can be leveraged and tapped into to create a new commodity, and that's best exhibited by Recover. We have the natural gas infrastructure, which can segue into hydrogen. Your oil and gas drilling assets and labor can be seamlessly repurposed for geothermal applications. And lastly, there appears to be a trend whereby oil and gas deposits are typically linked to rare earth minerals in terms of where they're situated. In addition to that, obviously, the Western Economic Corridor Incentive Bylaw purposely dovetails with the APIP program in terms of its stackability. So for a lot of the commodities I mentioned there on the screen, the government of Alberta is currently amidst developing tax incentive programs. So we add that other layer of stackability, and other counties throughout the province are already doing this with APIP. So for example, in Sturgeon, they have their own investment incentive bylaw, which can be stacked with APIP to allow that further incentive to entice and coax prospective investors to their community. This is just a visual of areas of priority growth for the province: circular economy, geothermal, hydrogen, rare earth minerals / lithium, ammonia, and CCUS. So this is the direction the province is going, and I think there's a foundation here potentially in the county that we can leverage to grow these sectors, and the NRED grant will really help shed light on what that looks like moving forward.
So I'm just still looking at that, and we've been working on things for, 4 years now with WEC when we started that, Brian?
Roughly.
Roughly four years ago. I'm just looking, we've done work with all of those entities, or most of them. Is there any tidbits that are coming? Like, is there anybody applying for the lithium? Is there anybody applying for ammonia development? Anybody, all of them there, hydrogen, geothermal? Is there any tidbits that would show that people are interested in what we're interested in?
I guess what I'd say through my observations, like the trend is a lot of these nascent sectors, if you will, are still in scale-up mode, meaning they're at the top of their cost curve and they're trying to achieve economies of scale to essentially develop commodities and make profit, right? So as it stands right now, they're in scale-up mode. They're trying to develop their technologies, come down that cost curve, which is very expensive, but it's the direction that we're going. So I think engaging early and often with respect to these opportunities and others is really key, and that's where the NRED grant will come into play when we can develop these sector development plans and come up with a rationale or a framework to engage them. For example, if we do a sector development plan in NRED or as part of NRED for hydrogen, we can figure out exactly, hopefully, what a prospective hydrogen producer would need and what the county has to support their commercialization objectives. So are we seeing it right now? I think we're seeing it in bits and pieces, but the fact that we're early to the game and that we saw the train coming, I think is a good thing. And I think it's just a matter of engaging early and often to decipher what the opportunities are moving forward, because it is the direction, I think, that the province is going in and globally where everyone else is trending towards and gravitating, right?
So, sorry for hogging the microphone here, but do we need to reach out to these 6 or 7 different subheadings to say, where are you at? We've done some initial groundbreaking ideas, and we reach out to anybody that's in those 6 blocks down there, and just say, it's been a while. I'd like to know, is there anything moving with any of these right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a question we could pose. For example, like when we met with Steeper in Calgary, right? They were basically saying the same thing as I think I just said, you know, we're just coming into commercialization. We're still developing our technology, so to speak. So again, I think it's just engaging early and often, but also presenting them with some data and some metrics as to why the county would conceivably be conducive to their operation, as we had mentioned at the onset here with biomass, right? It's that same approach for many of these sectors.
Well, I guess if we get the site selection work done, then we can send off to these companies saying, we believe that we have a site ready for you to start your business up, whatever it may be. Donna?
Can you refresh my memory? What is CCUS?
Oh, carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Yeah.
Okay, carry on, Brian.
So keeping with the policy analysis here, if you will, this augmenting opportunities associated with the circular economy is a priority for the province. It's articulated in the climate change strategy as well as Emissions Reduction Alberta. They're going to be, to my knowledge, releasing a series of grants that can help these companies in their early stages in their scale up prove out their technology moving forward. So this, you know, just corroborates a broader opportunity and something that I think we're uniquely positioned to put our pulse on, as you'll see here in the next couple slides. So anyways, we talk about potentially building a circular economy hub, not to, you know, shed too much details on the further slide, but no one's necessarily onto this yet. And I think there's an opportunity there that we can tap into. You know, are we going to become the next industrial heartland? Well, no, probably not. But I think there's little bite-sized investments that we could target, similar to that of a Recover, for example, you know, to kind of build this opportunity out and help frame the narrative potentially around the county and what we're doing to support growth in the region. So WEC, the rationale behind it, why are we doing this? Well, obviously, first and foremost, as we saw in the two circles or the Venn diagram there, it aligns well with the provincial policy, and it ensures that our message that we bring to government resonates. More importantly, I think what we need to look at is like the municipal landscape as a whole.
Brian?
Yes.
How much more time do you need? Because I want to hear your whole presentation, but we have another appointment here at 10 o'clock, and I'm not sure how long it'll take.
I can rip through pretty quickly. Give me about 10 minutes.
Or do you want, well, or can you just come back? Are you here in regard to the concern with gravel? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll be quick. So 344 municipalities in Alberta. I think it's important to note that we're all competing for the same money pot, so to speak, right? Name another rural county out there that doesn't want their highways paved, that doesn't want improvements to their local hospital, all these sorts of things. So how do we differentiate ourselves in a manner that resonates with decision makers? I think that's obviously tied directly to WEC. And more importantly, you know, where are the rural major investments going and why? And you'll see here some examples on the next slide. They're going to these pre-existing industrial networks or ecosystems, if you will. You know, Heartland is, you know, soaks up all the money. Yeah. It seems like every budget year they're getting something, whether it be a bridge improvement, highway paved, highway widened, etc. Obviously, Highway 63 up north towards the oil sands, $117 million to improve their highway, and Greenview, improvements to Highway 40 and Grand Prairie Regional Hospital. So you can kind of see a trend here in terms of where the money is flowing. And I think a large part of that is explained on this slide right here. Investment attraction precipitates to a degree population growth. When you have population growth and the influx of business, you create demand for the publicly funded service, and you give yourself a foundation to advocate to government. Look, we have Company X coming in, they're, you know, hauling trucks frequently. It's increasing traffic flows on Highway 621. Well, there you substantiate your need for the provincial investment. You know, myself working in a health minister's office, you know, you'd get letters every day from counties, you know, all explaining their issue in terms of, well, we're having problems with our hospital, but okay, well, what, you know, how, I guess, like, why do you need that, why do you need that service in your hospital, and what's happening in your community to, you know, warrant us providing that service, right? When you have all these other communities that are all clamoring for the same thing. So all that to say, I think this is somewhat of a catch-all solution that can be leveraged for various issues or short-term advocacy priorities brought forth by council. Just some examples here of other industrial networks. So you have the Heartland, you have Greenview, you have the Edmonton Region Hydrogen Hub, and then you have our emerging or nascent network, which we've dubbed the Western Economic Corridor. And I think there's a big opportunity here for this first mover advantage. Everyone's kind of defined their niche, right? Edmonton's going after hydrogen, Greenview's going after natural gas processing and production. Heartland is, well, petroleum petrochemical processing, but they're also starting to play in the hydrogen space as well. But no one yet has staked their claim to the circular economy and everything that's transpiring in this space, which I think, given the feedstocks we have in the county, from oil and gas, forestry, agriculture, et cetera, there's an opportunity there for us to exploit. And I think it's already happening organically with folks like Recover, right, who are essentially a circular economy example. What is the circular economy? It's taking all of our linear economic waste and turning it into something that has value. So I'll point to Recover again as being an example. They're taking that waste that would typically end up in a Class 2 landfill, taking it, commoditizing it. The byproduct is essentially sand, which is environmentally innocuous, and they're making a profit in return. McKinsey recently published a recent report on the circular economy and the potential economic contributions of this sector moving forward. They anticipate it could be worth upwards of $1 trillion by 2050. So again, Review had mentioned, well, when is this going to happen? I think we're on the early stages of it, but that's where we're trending towards in the future. Mission and vision, we've already gone through this. I'm not going to spend too much time out of the sake of time restraints here. Trend identification. So again, circular economy, Recover's a good example of this, but if we look at previous examples, they're all kind of within this circular economy realm. Onic and Breeze with their compressed air pipeline storage system, it's circular in the sense that they're taking a pipeline that was no longer usable, essentially refurbishing it and creating a compressed air storage system that could be used to dispatch energy onto the grid. Fiscal, ironically enough, is very similar to Recover, and both companies were drawn to the county given the idle infrastructure and waste feedstocks that were already here, demonstrating this notion of circularity. Current pipelines, so Steeper, with whom we met with in Calgary, is a biomass company, ironically enough, and we know they were actually looking at the county. So CAO Friesen, there might be a potential opportunity there. They're still coming down their technology development curve, but it was a group we had engaged with, and they had actually looked at the county because they said our feedstock supply was adequate. Algo Bloom, Modular Green, who I believe we're meeting with at the end of the month, and Acona, who keeps changing the meeting on me, but they're interested as well because of our natural gas infrastructure in the area and how it could be leveraged for hydrogen purposes. Marketing the region, I think as we said at the onset here, the county has a lot to offer industry, just given the pre-existing industrial base that's here, right? You have your high wide load corridor, you have the Canamex and Yellowhead highways, you have the Drayton Valley Airport, you have adequate transmission lines with your 240 kilovolt capacity. We have the tax incentive with the Western Economic Corridor incentive bylaw, as well as, most importantly, if we're looking to maximize opportunities with circularity, feedstocks and waste.
The only thing I'd suggest on this slide, if you're going to be updating it in the future, is we should add 39 because that's our connection to the airport.
Yeah, I think 30, would that not be 39?
We just don't mention it in
Yeah, it's not clearly articulated.
It's on the map, but it's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, and that also ties us to Edmonton, where a lot of the manufacturing comes out our way. Plus also, if you look on that same slide where it says utility access and energy supply, and it lists the 240 kV lines and the 138, we also have 500 kV lines in our municipality. So that would be another one to add.
That's the Alta-Link line?
That's the most recent one that went in.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. Why is it important? What are the benefits of it? Increased tax base, which can be leveraged to improve ratepayer services, sustain and create new employment for ratepayers in the community to provide well-paying jobs, creates an advocacy foundation, which I already went through, and then, you know, super long-term, but like, what's next for the community after oil and gas, and what does that look like? I know it's a large portion of our revenue supply, right? So, I mean, what's next, I guess, is the question, right? And should we start thinking about this now? So, community benefits summarized in a nutshell. Tactical approach, pending council approval. I emphasize no action taken to date on anything. This is merely ideas for consideration. So, strategic communications plan and strategy, which is a public-facing document, which can be used for, you know, ratepayer education, so everyone's aware of what we're working on. I think with respect to circular economy, we need to quantify feedstocks. What do we have here that can be leveraged by these clean tech companies like Recover or Fiscal or ONIC, which can support whatever sort of technology they're trying to grow. Site selectors, I think that's something we haven't looked at in the past, but we may want to consider engaging site selectors moving forward, because a lot of these companies inform, or a lot of site selectors inform, you know, good locations for investment to transpire. We have the grants, which I think are going to be launched shortly, re-engaging the investor pipeline, and then Q1 2025, ministerial visit by Minister Schultz. I've already had a discussion with her office concerning some of the work we're doing predicated around the circular economy and really marketing the county under this realm. And they essentially said that, well, it's really interesting because no one's really onto that piece yet, and there's some opportunities there. So I know there was an appetite for her to potentially come out and tour the county, visit places like Recover, the floating wetlands, et cetera, and really help build the brand of the county, linking it to WEC and the circular economy. Engaging Invest Alberta, obviously I think that's important. They might have leads that we're not aware of. Assessing the feedstock from Q1 to kind of augment that investor pipeline. Okay, what do we have here after we quantify our feedstock, and who are we going to engage based on that feedstock? And then Q2, you know, assess learnings and feedback to inform next steps. So that's what we're looking at potentially from a tactical perspective, and that's the conclusion of the presentation.
Well, the next steps, I think, has to include us reaching out to all these different companies that have showed an initial interest in Brazeau County, like the algae bloom. You know, we need to get them out to the floating wetlands and those areas to see, is this even feasible to think about algae production for fertilizer for farmers? You know, and whether it's them or Onyx and Breeze, is there anything, you know, still on the table that could be developed? The biomass is obviously the latest one here, but we seem to be the first on board to get out there looking for things. We just need to do that follow-up that you've mentioned, the next steps. That's what we have to do. And it means, I think, reaching out, but with some new information. And I really like that site selector chart that Natalie had prepared. And I think it's free of charge, isn't it, to utilize? Yeah. So that would just help us narrow down certain areas or potential sites in the future with all the things that are necessary. They mentioned power, like I said, water. I can't remember all of them, but there was about 30 or 40 of them anyway. That's my input. Anybody else got any? Kara, you're on the WEC committee, no? Glenn? What's that, Kara? Okay. Glenn?
Yeah, I think Brian kind of highlighted the issues we're having. These are all new things, and everybody is trying to scale up to make it worthwhile to get into it. So this is a long game to do a lot of what we're looking at. But I think you did a good job. And yeah, the ministerial, or the the visit from Rebecca Schultz would be a pretty big deal, too, if we could get that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I know, like, we had Minister Jean out too previously, kind of showcasing what we were working on. So I think Rebecca would be keenly interested sometime, hopefully before Christmas, is what I was told. Anything else?
No, that's good.
Good? Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks for the update. Motion to receive Brian's presentation for information. Anthony,
I move to receive the WIC update for information.
discussion, all those in favor? Carried unanimous. Anybody need a 5-minute break? I do. 5 minutes, so.
Name and? Yeah, yeah,
Just your
Okay,
name and then
okay.
your issue.
right. So my name is Daryl Schmidt, and we've been in the county since 1985, and we currently live on 7017 Township Road 500, which is 2.5 miles east of the Rocky Rapids store. So we're close to the river, and across from the river is a gravel pit that has been running. And I'm wanting to bring my concerns to you regarding the noise coming from the pit. And I understand it's called the Cavender Pit, gravel pit, if that's correct. And so the problem we're experiencing is we're having noise 24/7. And we've lived at this residence since 1998. And it's very hard to enjoy your time outside with a gravel pit running. And over the years, I've looked into different noises and like highway noises which come and go, and different maybe oil rigs that come and go and maybe stay for a few days. But when you have a noise that's constant, that always is there, in the evening, the light plant will run. And so you, depending on the weather, the time of year, et cetera, will change how much the sound comes over to our place. And I know a lot of our neighbors too would be receiving the same kind of noise level, and I guess we've all kind of had to put up with whatever it is, you know. And I've talked with Kara Westerland a number of times, and I think every year I talk to her about it, and it is my understanding that the renewal to the license is coming up in 2 years, I think in 26. But what I'm trying to maybe look for is if there is something that we could do to address that noise. I know the county has instituted or got a decibel reading that's into the that is used to maybe determine some noise levels. But I guess my argument would be that with a gravel pit, it's a different noise than anything else, because it has a deep growling sound to it. It's constant. That it doesn't really show up on the decibel reading as what you're actually hearing, as far as what you're hearing is more maybe disturbing or cause you discomfort than some of the other noises that you're going to have. We live very close to a road, very close, and so we have some of that traffic and stuff, but it's not like that. So what I'm hoping for is that we could look at things, and maybe I think if a company was a good community-minded company, I would hope that they would would be looking for things that would take away from the displeasure of the residents around them for them to do business. And it is my understanding, though, also that the company has, to my understanding, with the county law enforcement peace officer, has also maybe treated them with disrespect, as if they really can do their own thing. And I know over years, there's been others that have, I do believe, that have come to you or expressed their displeasure with it. But I think there's things that can be done with the noise. And for example, maybe mufflers, to have extra mufflers or a quieter muffler. There's different kinds of insulation fences that insulate and buffer sounds. So those are just a couple ideas, but if put in place, I think could really make the sound less and have it more enjoyable. My wife's retired, I'm semi-retired now. But to spend time outside, a lot of times, is not pleasurable. And so when you get to your retirement here, we've spent our lifetime working here in the community, doing community service. And so it's not really thinking that, well, is this a really good place to retire? So I'm trying to bring this information to your note and see if the county, somehow there is ways to talk with the company, even though their contract is in place, and there's ways that we could resolve this.
Well, I want to thank you for bringing this forward to us. You do have some good ideas. I had an oil company for a while, and I put mufflers inside of mufflers.
Yes.
And it significantly reduced the noise. So there is abatement issues that can be developed, and maybe that's the focus. You know, we don't want to kill economic development, but we don't want to kill the residential quality of life as well. So we're on the horns of a dilemma sometimes.
Yes.
But I think there is solutions, and you've brought it forward in a very succinct manner, so I appreciate that. And we'll maybe have one of the councilors make a motion to set up a meeting with these guys and to see what some options are for reducing the noise, because you are right. It's as you get closer to the grave, it seems that things tick you off more and more as time goes on, and I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I worked in the oil patch, but when those noisy service rigs come in and clang bang pipes all over at night, you know, it wrecks my sleep.
Yeah.
But I'm used to it, so you kind of forget about it. But I think there's maybe some solutions, so I appreciate how you presented your case.
Right. And one of the things I wanted to mention too is not just outside I can hear it, but I can hear it in my house, and I can hear it in my bedroom.
Yes.
When I go to sleep at night, I hear it in my bedroom, and when I get up in the morning, I hear it in my bedroom. So I just wanted to kind of
Okay, well,
finish off that.
once again, thanks for how you presented it. You made a pretty good case for a solution, which we appreciate. We get lots of concerns and complaints, but very few solutions. So then we have to guess. So I think finding some ways to deal with the noise might be a suitable application for not just your particular concern, but for other noise issues we sometimes get in the county. Kara, do you have something to add? Or?
Thank you. Through the chair too, I wasn't sure, was administration prepared to speak to this? Just maybe some background on it? Kathleen's smiling at me, so I didn't want to put you too much on the spot, but if you just maybe had some background information maybe for council too as well. I believe this, honestly, this gravel pit in particular is the one that I received the most complaints about, and I think Councillor Heinrich is in the same boat too as well.
So just a little bit of an overview and some of the history over the last 6 years. We receive at least one complaint per year under the concern file realm, particularly asking if they're operating outside of their development permit. It is correct, their development permit was provided for 10 years. It was June 2020, sorry, June 2016 to June 2026, so they will be looking for reapplication in approximately 2 years or a year and a half to ensure that it's in place to continue with the process. The majority of the complaints are surrounded around noise. We have had some with road use. This has been done both through the Planning and Development Department with our Community Standards Bylaw and the Land Use Bylaw under the Development Permit, but it has also been attended by community peace officers who have the ability to do noise ratings. One of the items that we did see in the past was the number of holiday trailers of people staying down on the site, and they were using the big generator for all of those holiday trailers. That was brought to council, I believe, last year, although my memory's a little fuzzy. It might be the year before, which we looked at maybe potentially changing some things in the Community Standards Bylaw where we put the use of RVs on residential and agricultural land, looking at that, and the result was to look at the noise bylaw. We did change the noise bylaw to include some information around noise in natural resource extraction and processing districts, which is what this would be zoned as, with the caveat of also in areas that had natural resource extraction or natural resource processing uses that weren't zoned that. So any of the old ones that are on agricultural land or in direct control districts. So covering all that operation within the noise bylaw. So we did make that change, but as Mr. Schmidt did state that it has been below those levels when our community peace officers have gone out to do the to do the testing with the equipment that we currently have and the skill set that they have. But we have gone through the last set of meetings that I have notes about is from September 2023, in which we had a meeting, and the community peace officers went to visit the pit outside of operating hours to do decibel readings, and there was a discussion with them about switching which way the doors opened of the generator building so that it wasn't going towards the river, which of course acts as a natural amplifier. And then a request to meet with the gravel company, that the head company there, that was tasked to someone else, and so I don't have an understanding if it was completed. We are reaching out currently with our, we didn't get a clear answer from them, so we're reaching out to 2 of our neighboring counties that have similar types of developments to see what their conditions are so that we can prepare before that 2026 renewal and see if we can get some additional conditions or clear conditions that we have seen work in other counties. So that came out of that. And then just working with discussions with the province as well. So that is what came out of that. We are well aware that there are concerns that constantly come up about this pit. We always do check because there are 2 pits right next to each other, and one does have the ability to work 24/7. They are under an older permit. It does not expire. But generally when we go down, it is not them. It is occasionally them working later, but that is what we have found for some of the history related to this situation.
Questions? Glenn?
Do we know the name of the pit? It's so far, it's been referred to this pit or this gravel pit. Like I said, I don't know what the name of the company is, or I couldn't tell you where it's at now.
So through the chair to Councillor Gunderson, it is the Tavner pit, yeah.
So, yeah, so we went down to the LaForge pit last year, and they had rock trucks that, even though we were right beside them, you couldn't hear them. The equipment that they'd put onto the exhaust, they just would sneak around that pit, you couldn't hear them. They also put backup beacons that you would not carry very far, right? Like they just, without asking, I suppose, they just went. So my question would be on the Lafarge pit, are you guys getting the same concerns? Are residents nearby? Have you had any complaints from that pit?
So through the chair to Councillor Gunderson, I believe we have had one in the last 6 years, and it was easily remedied.
Yeah, like I said, I was really impressed when I went there. They snuck around those rock trucks, and we were out there, and you couldn't hear them. I don't know what they're running, but there is technology to address this for sure.
Donna?
Well, I'd just like to say that I really appreciate you coming in sooner rather than later so we could get something done before the deadline. I know that there's rock trucks and gravel crushing right by Spruce Grove. So there must be, you know, and there's a lot of residential around there. So fencing or, you know, the cement blocks, maybe. Anyways, yeah, we have enough time now to look at remedies, so very good. Thank you.
Cody?
I was trying to figure out a way to phrase this question and be nice about it. Not that I think it's overly harsh, but I was just wondering, is the operator amiable to suggestions, or are they a little hard-headed?
So through the chair to
That's the
Councillor
part I was
Brooks,
wondering.
we have seen a number of transitions of who the parent company is of the operator of this gravel pit. So I can't make that judgment call on the newest one, but we have seen a rather, over the last 6 years, a rather decent changeover of who's running the show and how willing they are to come to the table.
Well, you'd think they'd be doing a better job, especially if their contract's coming up in 2 years. Right, do we have the ability to change the conditions then? Or to deny it? I mean, if council went down that path?
So to the chair, when it does come forward, we would have the ability to put any conditions on, which is part of the reason we're reaching out to our neighboring municipalities, Parkland County being one of them, Leduc County being the other ones as the primary focus, so that we can get conditions. We can add whatever conditions we feel is necessary to make the operation work within our county. That's the right of the Municipal Planning Commission. This is a discretionary use within the Natural Resource and Extraction Processing District. So it would be a Municipal Planning Commission decision, and whoever was sitting on that board. And that includes what conditions are included. So that's part of the reason we're doing the research ahead of time. So our development officers can have those conditions ready. It would be up to the Municipal Planning Commission whether they wanted to refuse. They could. I don't know how that works within the province. Their permit is under Alberta Environment and Protected Areas, I believe is what they're going by now. That is not included within the Municipal Government Act, Section 619 or 618, my apology, I can't remember which one, that states that a municipality must make an approval and adjustments if an approval is granted by the government. Alberta Environment and Parks is not included within the acronyms within that legislation. However, I do believe that we would have a visit from the province or a question from the province as to what we're doing, since it is a dual license approval process. But the conditions are definitely something we could go forward with, for sure.
We sit on the horns of the dilemma many times between residential and business, and we want to be open for business, but if there's some solutions that were brought forward, like, you know, reduce noise and things like that to a lower level, and there's a cost-effective solution, I think we want to look at that as well, but that's a decision that'll be made by MPC. Cody and then Kara.
I was just going to ask, I know there's been lots of discussion and lots of background on it. 2 years is a long time. I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do between now and those 2 years are up to help with the residents? I think Mr. Schmidt made a great comment about maybe sitting down with the company again and just seeing if we can have, open the door for a discussion. And maybe that's the first step that we take, but I would just like a little bit of a clear path of where we're gonna go. Because like I said, 2 years is a long time.
Yeah, I didn't think do nothing for 2 years, Kara. It's just that 2 years is a short term for business, because if rules are gonna change, they need a lot of gearing up to do that. So if they know that concerns are being brought forward to us now, maybe they'll proactively start doing some things. Cody?
Well, I got a motion just like that. If I may?
Are you reading my mind?
Well, I don't know. It's amazing there.
Sure.
Yeah, and so that would be my hope, is that something could be done before the 2 year. Like you say, it takes time for them to get prepared. But I think if a meeting was held and items were addressed as to the noise and different ways, maybe that with the contract coming up, what kind of things could be done? Maybe these are going to be the things that we're going to be asking in 2 years, but maybe they would be, like I say, a good business would say, well, maybe they could implement them right away or in a time appropriate manner. So that would be my last comment. And in doing so, because I'm here, and I always say to Kara Western, and I appreciate the counselors that work in the county. I've been here since '85, and I'm proud to be living in Brazeau County. And I thank all the counselors for the great work they do, and Bart, for the work that you do for us. And maybe you hear a lot of complaints from people, but I want to be the one that says that I appreciate your work, and there's a lot of people in the county that do, and I want you to know that. So thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Darryl. Cody.
Okay. So I move to direct administration to engage with the operator of the tavern or pit with suggestions to reduce the level of noise coming from their operations and have administration report back to council. I think that covers it. Oh, hi.
Lee, did you have something?
No, I just wanted to say that, and Mr. Schmidt had said that, the CPOs have been down there multiple times on different isolated incidents, and I will say that Taverner does work with the CPOs, and they have cooperated. There's been isolated vehicles and truckers that haven't followed the rules, and they've suspended them, and they've followed through. Then they're very good that way. So the problem is what we have right now with the noise bylaw, like we had at the noise extraction as far as the decibels, they are falling in line with that. So here lies the problem. I don't know if it's the river valley as far as where it echoes. Maybe it's unique to that pit. I just wanted to add that they have been cooperating with the CPOs.
Okay, thanks for that. Anthony.
And we've also had issues where they had traffic congestion with that same pit, the operators that are hauling the gravel out. So I think I think that's maybe what Lee was trying to also allude to. So if we're going to sit down and have that chat, or if administration has that chat with them, I think we should look at the full list of situations that have developed over the period of time of the operation and bring to their attention, especially since there's changing management at the facility, that some things have improved, or at least are better to the degree that they are, and at least acknowledge that, but then also suggest the areas that are still the biggest area of concern, so that they feel that there's acknowledgement of the efforts that they've put into some of our concerns that we have brought forward, and that maybe make a little greater effort in some of these areas that they're still left with, greater concerns.
Okay. All right. Cody, you have a motion on the floor? No. I've got an excellent memory. Every once in a while. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Okay, thanks for coming in, Mr. Schmidt. Take the rest of the day off. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, now, that 5-minute break. Pardon me? Oh, okay. Another delegate. These guys really want me to suffer here. All right. So we have another delegation here, Henry Brinks, Bees. Kind of a sweet deal coming up here. Okay.
Well, I hate to shorten your coffee break time, but...
It wasn't coffee I was needing.
Oh, okay. Or smoke, whatever it is.
No, not even smoking. Those are good things.
Well, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come and talk with you about a proposal that I think is beneficial to the county and also to fellow beekeepers. I want to begin by introducing myself. My name is Henry Brinks. I'm married to my wife Linda, and we have 3 sons, one of whom is Stephen Brinks, who owns and runs Drayton Valley Physiotherapy. Linda and I moved to Drayton Valley 3 years ago upon invitation from our son and daughter-in-law, Candace, who operates Divine Interiors. It's a delight for us to watch our grandchildren growing up in this community. Today, I'm a hobbyist beekeeper I run 20 hives. I've worked with 4 commercial beekeepers in the past before we ran our own beekeeping business in southern Manitoba. I've worked with honeybees for 35 years, and the first 2 years were in the Peace River area, namely Hines Creek and Fairview. While working for Dave Taggart in Fairview, I found out about a proposal. This was given to Fish and Wildlife on sowing clover seed in ditches where road construction was happening. I thought, wow, what a wonderful idea. I travel Range Road 73 on my way to my bee yard, which is located at Ivan and Marie Cornelson's. And this road's been upgraded from gravel to a hard surface in the last year. And south of Township Road 504 and Range Road 73, on the east side of the road, there's an area of the ditch that has no ground cover in the ditch at all. It's just bare ground. So here's my proposal. May I suggest that Brazeau County introduce and implement the seeding of alsike and white Dutch clover in ditches where roads are being upgraded. You could begin with the test plot in the area mentioned earlier and then evaluate from there. Rocky Rapids store could supply the clover seed, which I've asked them about. The cost for 50 pounds of alsike clover seed is $300, which is why I suggest a test plot first. I'm willing to split the cost for the first 50 pounds of seed. I want to help the beekeeping industry in these trying times when honey production and operating and living costs keep escalating. Increased honey production benefits our local stores and people in our town and surrounding community. There's 2 good reasons for seeding clover seed in the ditches. Alsike and white Dutch clover are short plants that provide good ground cover, which also prevents soil erosion. And it can also save labor, which does not require mowing like timothy or brome grass, and it helps keep weeds under control. The clover flowers provide forage for honeybees to make honey. And even though I'm not dependent on honey production for a living like I used to, I do have fellow beekeepers who do rely on forage crops like alfalfa and clover for their livelihood. One of those apiaries is Blissful Bee Apiary, located on 6308 Highway 624, known as the Correctional Line, going to Tomahawk. Gilbert has bees within flying distance of Range Road 73, along with myself. There may be other beekeepers that I'm not aware of. So on behalf of the beekeepers in Brazeau County, I would like to ask for your support in the planting of alsike and white Dutch clover in the ditches and places of other grasses. I want to thank you for allowing me this time to make this presentation.
Okay, appreciate you taking the time to come in and let us know. I know that they do use different types of grass mixtures, and eventually the clover seems to get damaged when they go to spray for weeds. Because a lot of times when we spray for broadleaf weeds like chamomile or oxeye daisy, it kills the clover as well. But initially, I think it's put in some of the seed mixtures along with some other grasses. But I think that's a review that needs to be looked at, because he's brought up an issue that I've raised a couple times. Clovers can grow quite low to the ground. And we should be growing grasses that are the lowest, shortest grass. And we looked at it initially, and there was a company out of Red Deer that could almost sow like a turf grass for ditches. And then you're not always mowing it. But it could be a mixture, so that, you know how seeds work, is that sometimes clover might catch right away, sometimes other grasses, depending on the weather and things like that. But I think it's in there. But I think we need to look at our seed mix totally and maybe rethink about what we're trying to do, because I recently hit a deer because the grass was so tall, come flying through the tall grasses.
Right,
And him and I didn't get along, so. I just got my car back here a while ago. Anyway, you bring up a good point, and I think we need to take a look at our grass mixtures,
Okay.
okay?
Any questions at all?
Yeah, you've got quite a few other, there's butzes out there too that, but they're on Highway 39, so we don't have any control over that. So any of the local roads, we have control, and the construction that we do, we have an option, so it'll be whether or not we go down that path, but I like what you're saying.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, Cody. Go ahead, Donnie. See, now you're pointing, go ahead.
I think it's a great idea. The only drawback I could see is maybe the deer closer to the road, but at least we would see them. You know, like Bart says, like, they just come out of the grass and we don't see them, but if they're grazing on the side of the road, we would notice that. So, yeah, I really like this idea. I mean, we're all dependent on the production that bees do, all of us. Like,
Cody,
So-
you gonna put salt blocks along the highway?
I do have a couple of questions, and maybe administration is the one to ask, but maybe not. Couple of questions. One kind of revolves around the clovers. So I'm not an expert in various types of clover, but you know, when owl-site clover is a substantial part of a animal's diet, it can cause damage to their liver. And I'm not suggesting that, like, it's a very high percentage. It's like 50% of their diet. I don't think that it's going to be that invasive, but what I'm kind of wondering is how far does would this clover spread, maybe? Like, is it going to continue out into people's fields and that sort of thing, or?
I don't think so, because the farmers have their own crops in their fields, and so I don't think there's a problem there. It's the benefit is to honeybees and also for safety as well.
And then another question I have is, what is the range of a apiary, I guess? Like, how far out are the bees gonna go? I'm thinking, like, maybe it certainly would be beneficial for apiary to have, clover in the ditches. My question kind of revolves around, like, if we're going to do road work in anywhere in the county, are we going to put clover there, or are we going to just do it within the range of an apiary kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I think there's more than just myself as a hobbyist beekeeper. I think there's several hobbyists in this county. And bees will travel anywhere from 2 to 3 mile radius.
3 miles.
And so, like Gilbert has a yard just a mile east of this range road. My bees are within a mile, and there may be other beekeepers in the area as well. So, for beekeepers that are depending on their livelihood, it's just going to increase production for them, and also future flowers, because crops are rotated, and so something with like clover in the ditches is going to be a constant food supply for the bees. Now, I realize there's the longevity of clover seed as far as how long they're going to survive, but I think with the different clovers in there, I think you're going to increase that time. So.
Yeah, clovers, alfalfa, vetches, all of those are all good sources of food for the bees.
Yeah, and it provides nitrogen. I don't know if that's going to help any, but
Just if we're combining on the highway.
Yeah.
Glenn?
Thanks, Henry. You've been in the business for 35 years. How could we gauge if this is a successful program, I guess? If we were to plant this ditch with that clover, would you be able to tell us that you've seen an increase in production, or?
Well, again, it's not just dependent on the flowers, but also on the moisture for the flowers. So if we have a dry year, you know, the production is going to be down, just like it is for crops. So I think, you know, it's just going to show in what kind of a year we have. So it's going to be hard to gauge that, but it's just going to increase the amount of forage for honeybees. And like I said, it's just a safety issue as well, I think, in the ditches.
You could do control samples on the bug screen of your vehicles now, and after the bee population increases, and see if there's an increased number of bugs in your grill. On a side note, is there a mite issue in this county? There is, eh?
Yeah, there isn't a place in the world where we don't have the problem with the varroa mite, and that's an increasing problem, because it's harder to control the mite right now. There are commercial beekeepers that are running into their bees becoming resistant to the treatments, because you can only treat for so long and then they become immune to it, and so they have to alternate ways of controlling the mite. And so that is becoming an increasing problem. So our bee population is not increasing, it seems to be decreasing. And so we are, you know, we're trying to provide ways where we can have the best production available for bees. So.
Okay. I think we need
as far as monitoring, that's going to be hard to monitor. The production part, yeah.
You can monitor it on your grill. Glenn and Donna, let's wrap this up here.
Just on the, now that you mentioned the mites, I did see that there was a solution maybe to this. It was just the constant spraying of oregano. So they've got a machine you can put in the hive that squirts a little mist of oregano, and apparently it will kill those mites over time. Have you heard anything about that? I seen that on basically it was a
YouTube.
Well, no, it was on a bee.
To find ways to control the mite. Until it's been tested and tried, we can't say for sure that it's going to be a solution. There is anyone that comes up and says we have a solution for the mite, I want to see a 2 to 3 year program for it before I would say I'll endorse it. So yeah, we just have to be very careful. You know, there's just like anything that we try, we have to be able to test it and make it's not going to be a problem as far as affecting the quality of honey or get into the wax of the honeycombs. So oregano, yes, is a fairly safe product, but I wouldn't want to say for sure if this is a sure thing or not.
But at least people are thinking.
Pardon me?
At least people are thinking of alternative ways.
Oh yeah, that's constantly happening all the time. But it's, you know, it's not a quick solution. This is a problem that's worldwide, and it's not the mite that's the problem. It's the viruses that they carry, and there's different viruses that the mites carry, and so finding a product that will control it is an ongoing thing.
Donna?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I move that we work with administration to get this Alsite clover applied to these.
I'll have them research seed selection sources and seed mixes, because they've already got mixes already.
Okay.
So you don't want to specify right now what it is, but them to look at the different options, including Dutch clover and Alsite clover.
Okay, what he said. No, I move to work with administration to apply clover to these roads.
Mixtures.
Mixture.
You might want to specify what type of clover, though. because if you say sweet clover, then it's going to grow this high.
Oh,
So that's why
short
he's saying
clover.
white or Dutch clover,
White or Alsike, yeah.
or else.
But you told me not to.
No, no.
Alsike clover.
What I'm trying to do is not pick the seed mix. Administration is gonna have to work with these, and they may say we already have that in there.
I'm not making a motion, I'll just kind of let you know what I was thinking about. So my motion was regarding, it was to map out the location of known apiaries and to do research on Alsike and white clover mixtures and bring the findings to council. That was what I had. You don't have to say that, but that was.
No, that's good data to have, is how many apiaries we have. So you slow down for the bees crossing.
So that's totally different motion. Like that's more than,
To utilize Alsike clover where appropriate, Alsike and Dutch clover.
well, to start on these roads and use it as a pilot project.
Moved by Donna Wiltsey to direct administration to work to research Alsike clover mixes and road allowances on the roads as presented by Mr. Brinks as a pilot project.
Okay, so if I could add a friendly amendment to just add the, it was Alsike clover, and I'd add white Dutch clover then. Friendly
Yes.
amendment, if you're okay with that. And then
Yes.
I'll make a motion later about apiaries.
Okay,
I accept that as a friendly amendment.
okay, discussion, all those in favor? Okay, so you got the ball rolling, what we know of. If you've actually got a list of them, let us know.
They are used.
I was thinking, that's where their shop is at, but I give them, yeah, and I imagine other AP. We made a motion, we passed it, right?
That motion passed.
The ball is rolling, the bees are humming.
Well, I hope they're settled down now,
Yes.
for the winter anyway.
Do we want to add that we want to get a map of the apiaries? Because that motion wasn't made.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. That's part of our whole strategy of knowing where our businesses are. And we could even put a newsletter saying that the Brazeau County is trying to map out, where bee producers are producing their honey from, so we can help you solve the virus/mite problem.
I don't know if that's not the intent, but.
No, just keep it shorter than that.
Yeah, so I move to direct administration to map out the location of known apiaries and to bring the findings back to council.
Discussion, all those in favor? And we may find it's really exhaustive. Like, you see there, how many oil wells do we have? You see that map there?
Mm-hmm.
That's how many oil wells there are in the county. The same thing could be said for and it's a public input opportunity for the public to bring forward ideas, solutions, concerns. Anybody from the gallery or online? Anybody have concerns? The third and final, I'll ask if there's anybody out there that has any concerns or some solutions or suggestions. See, I'll come out of the public input session, and I'm going to turn the chair over to us.
All right, thank you, Reeve Guion. I will assume the chair. I think we'll turn it over to Public Works for item 7A and next on the agenda package. Township Road 492, safety assessment, page 43 to 106. Pippa, are you here for that one?
Oh, can you hear me?
Okay, is that Amro? Yeah, we can hear you. Go right ahead.
Yes. So the purpose for this report, present Then traffic safety findings and recommendation for Township Road 492. So particularly between Range Road 80 and 81. So I'm going to start with the recommended actions, which that council directs administration to proceed with the maintenance improvements immediately, such as installation of the warning signs, culverts maintenance, and brushing. Bring back the intersection reconfigurations to 2025 capital budget discussions, and to bring back a revised speed limit bylaw, including the speed reduction on Township Road 492. I'll start with a quick background. Traffic safety study that we are presenting, that one was conducted by V3 Companies of Canada, and we had some key issues, which is the side distance, vehicle interactions, and roadway design deficiency. All those ones are affecting both local and heavy traffic. Moving on to the key safety concerns, which are the side distance limitation. That's because of the vegetation blocks the visibility. We also have the heavy vehicles challenges. We have conflict points, that's high risk zone that's close to the commercial access points, such as by the Barmac shop. And there are also speed concerns, especially for the heavy vehicles around that area, and there is an increase for collision risks. So I'm gonna move on to go to the intersection analysis that we did around the 492 with Range Road 80, and also the other intersection with Range Road 81. We had some findings there, which side distance issues. We have a heavy traffic volume, which is above the accepted level of service, which warrant some modification there. And we used some projected growth as part of that study. We used the 2%, that's a standard for Alberta transportations. And there has been also some collision data. We had 6 crashes reported between 2018 to 2022. Mostly were rear-ended and angle collision. So when you look at all these ones, they do warranted intersection improvement. So based on all those ones, all this analysis and the report was provided, there has been some recommendations. First one would be the speed limit reduction, and that one reduces the speed, the posted speed 80 to 60 between Range Road 80 to 81, so the full segment. We need to also address, based on this one, we'll address the local concern and will reduce potential collision in the future. The no passing zone, which will change the yellow lights to a double solid yellow light around the commercial areas. We'll look at the intersection configuration, went through it, and based on that, we need to upgrade the intersection to type the double 2B layout. So that one we did attach it as part of the attachment for this report. But this one includes the turning tapers for large vehicles. Vegetation management and culvert security. So we'll look at that one to clear some data, to clear some trees and improve the side distance. And we need to do some cleanup for the culverts, and we prevent some erosion issues. The final one would be install advanced warning sign. That's for the truck entrance. The benefit from this recommendations are to improve the safety for the road and the traffic flow, and also align with the local businesses and community concerns. However, for all these benefits and this recommendation, we do have some implications. First one would be our operational impact. We're going to need to use some of our staff time to install the signs and to do some culvert maintenance. And there is a financial consideration, which is a cost for Public Works to install the signs and do some culvert work that will impact the operational budget. And the other one would be for the intersection upgrades. That one will be included for the 2025 interim budget. Any questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Gunderson.
Through the chair to Amaro. We already had started a speed bylaw, 1171-24. We got to second reading. Is that one just null and void since it's been such a long time to get to third reading? That would have addressed the speed issue anyways. We could have lowered that speed limit with just passing that bylaw.
Through the chair to Council Gunderson, you're right about that one, the one we started. However, we need to go review it as to make sure about the distance itself. So because we're looking at the area around the Barmac commercial area, but right now we're looking at for the full area. I just wanted to confirm that part and look at the same time. I know we're looking at some to amend some of the other bylaws as well for other areas for the speed as well. So we're going to take it as one and provide it, bring it to council as one amendment.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Any other questions
No
for
problem.
our Director of Public Works? Amaro, Dallas here. I'm looking at page 85, 86, the annual average daily traffic counts, and there's some pretty detailed information there. Could you kind of sort that out a little bit for us? 87, 89. I've never seen annual average daily traffic in this type of a breakdown before.
So that one, you would like me to explain it in detail or just tell you what's the example for like turning left, turning right, and the part?
Yeah, give us a little bit of Sparks notes. With the traffic safety study, this is a very detailed traffic safety study. I've never seen anything quite so detailed. But yeah, give us a little bit of Sparks notes on it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna take a quick look, if you don't mind to give me less than a minute. I'm gonna look at this. We can put it on it. Just gonna look at which page, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, if we look at page 74, so that would be the best way to explain for the traffic counts, because it tells you if we zoom in to Range Road 80, for example. If you can scroll down a little bit, if you don't mind. This is the best way to explain the traffic counts instead of going through the Excel sheet itself. So it shows to you how many vehicles are going straight. So we'll look at from the table that has the number 7, 85, and 43. So that one, it tells you that's the total of the vehicle itself. However, it tells you how many vehicles are going straight through the direction, through the intersection, how many vehicles, 7 is going to the north, and 43 is going south. And it's telling you which total 179 is the full, how many vehicles are going straight. 70, it tells you how many vehicles are actually going through that, going to turn right from the old intersections. And 49 is going from the other one. So that explains to you the best way for the traffic movement at an intersection. Would that explain it better for the chair?
Yeah, that helps, Amro.
Yeah.
It's just a lot more information than, I just don't know how you're even able to collate so much information. Are we constantly counting on this highway or on this? It just seems like it's.
Yeah, through the chair, we do a week, like it's a full week of counts for that area, and based on that, we look at for that daily, we look at the numbers, and based on that, we look at the highest numbers based on congested hours, so the high volumes, and we do the analysis, and based on that, we look at what's the best number to present the intersection as a glimpse over the year itself.
Okay, I think I captured that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Donna.
Through the chair to Amro, in the middle of this, there's a 2, where, I'm not exactly sure where these 2 vehicles are going, like, east of the 2, there's a road going north and south. Is that the Barmac intersection there?
Through the chair, there should be, the Barmac is the one right before that intersection. So the 2 to 4, that's the one at the Barmac, and there's the other one right west of the Barmac, the other the other commercial side, the other industrial side there.
Thank you.
So there are two approaches right there, the major ones.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, pleasure.
All right, does anybody have any other questions for Public Works? If not, I'm looking for some direction from council. Yes. Glenn first.
I move to direct administration to proceed with the maintenance improvements immediately, such as the installation of warning signs, culvert maintenance, and brushing.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Next. Councillor Gunderson again.
I move to direct administration to bring back the intersection reconfiguration treatment type 2B attachment 2 to the 2025 capital budget discussions.
Fair enough. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. There are none opposed. Cody, go for it. Councillor Brooks, go ahead.
I move to direct administration to bring back a revised speed limit bylaw, including a speed reduction on Township Road 492.
Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, thank you, Amro. I guess we'll be talking to you a little bit later today.
Pleasure, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, looks like agriculture is coming to the microphone, so I think we'll turn that over to Nancy, Agriculture Services, item 9 on the agenda package, A, Alice Partnership. Go right ahead, ladies.
Okay, thank you. So on page 107 of your agenda, I'm here to present the Alice Partnership Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. So as a part of our regular review, the Alice PAC has reviewed the terms of reference at their October 3rd meeting and made a motion directing administration to bring the changes to council. Now, the Alice 1 policy does indicate that the terms of reference is to be adopted by council, so that is why we have that before us today. So there are just 4 small changes that we have made, and I'll quickly go through them. The first one being updated references to the newly revised and adopted procedural bylaw 1190-24 and Council 8 at-large appointment selection guideline policy. So you'll notice those changes throughout as noted in red. There's also an update to the membership. So if you flip to page 109, at the bottom of that page, it does describe the membership for the Alice PAC as being a majority of local producers, a minority of external agencies, and then we flip to the next page and it does mention 1 Brazeau County councillor and 1 alternate councillor. So we've made some small changes there. The way it was worded actually indicated that it was a Brazeau County councillor that could be on there, and we want to include the Reeve in that as well. So we've changed it to indicate 1 Brazeau County council member. And in the beginning, when we first started our PAC, the council did appoint 1 alternate councillor as well to the PAC, but we haven't done that in several years. So if council is not consistently providing an alternate councillor, we can just strike that out from there. The next change is to a revision to the PAC chair and vice chair eligibility. So on page 110, under the heading PAC chair and vice chair, now, just to give a little background on this, we do appoint external agencies to our PAC, and because it's an agency that's appointed, not an individual, the chair or the chairperson can't be an agency that would be chairing the meeting. So it was written that it would be an area producer that would be the PAC chair or the vice chair. I did have a chance at a recent Alice conference to ask Alice National why it was worded that way, because it was excluding a council member being elected as a chair or a vice chair. And in the beginning, we had it that way just because we did want to really focus on producers leading this committee and being the chairperson of it. Now that we have all of our guidelines and policies established, the PAC did feel that it would be appropriate that if elected, a council member could chair or vice chair that as well. So we've changed that to include area producers and council members, and of course that is elected on a yearly basis, so the PAC would decide who would be elected as the PAC chair and vice chair. And finally, the last update that we have is an update to the term of appointment. And so that is on page 111 under the heading Term of Appointments. So we've just brought that in line with the procedural bylaw. It used to be that the appointments were for 1 year only. Now, we did discuss this at length in the PAC meeting, because in the past the Alice PAC has asked for terms of appointment to be 2 years. In this case, the PAC discussion just led us to not necessarily ask for a 2-year appointment, but rather reappoint the existing members that are applying again. The reason for this is it's a very unique program, a unique group. We usually only meet about 6 times a year. We schedule 12 meetings, but we only meet as necessary. So really it's only 6 meetings per year that we do meet. As I said, it's a unique program, and the members felt that during the first year, there was a lot to take in. There's a lot to learn about it. And they just felt that the first year they spent listening and learning about the program. The second year on the board, they felt that they could start to contribute a little bit more. And then by the 3rd year, they're full-fledged members helping in the decision making. So that's part of their I guess, philosophy of why they would want to be appointed for a second and consecutive year. That being said, that group is a very highly functioning group. We do put the farmers first. We do have like-minded goals. We are kind of on a roll. We've found our groove, and I just want to say that the PAC is functioning as a great group. So I did mention to the PAC that I would bring that forward for your consideration when you do have your organizational meeting. So that concludes the changes that we have to the terms of reference, and I will take any questions.
All right, are there any questions from council? Who's first? Councillor Heinrich?
this might be more to Rudy or Tina, I don't know. But council, I'm trying to see the policy, council guidelines policy for members at large. When we appointed individuals, we now have a code of conduct that the councilors have to be cognizant of. So with our members at large, at least the way our code of conduct bylaw was passed, it was to also include our members at large that sit on these committees. So are they been made aware of that, being that we have an organizational meeting and they're reapplying? Have they been made aware of this additional structure?
Through the chair to Councillor Heinrich, when that change was made, we did communicate that to all of our members at large with the committee and boards that we manage. And as well, that will be part of their orientation when the new committee is appointed.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Brooks, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have one question, and it's not really that important, but I was wondering, so the old rules, the chair couldn't be a council member. But what I was wondering was, what if the council member was also an area producer? If, you know what I mean? I was just kind of wondering how that might have fit in. With the old rules, it doesn't really affect going forward, but I was just kind of wondering.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Brooks. When the councillors appointed to this committee, even though they may be an area producer, the hat that they are wearing and the position they are occupying would be to represent council. So they may wear both hats in reality, but on this board, they would be the council representative.
Are there any other questions for administration? If there are none, what do you decide? Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
I move that council approves the pact terms of reference as presented.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to Agriculture Services 9B, used oil collection, pages 112 to 113. Danya, you're going to lead the way on this one. Go right ahead.
Good morning, Chair and Council. On page 112 of your agenda, you'll find a RFD for used oil collection. The first point that I would like to make is that there is a mistake in the information. Under the executive summary, in the first paragraph, it indicates that the maximum size of pails that the county accepts at our hazardous waste roundup is 5 liters. I would like to correct that on the record. We do accept up to 20-liter pails.
Okay.
So we do not currently provide used oil collection at any of our transfer stations. Landowners are able to take used oil and filters as well as glycol to our hazardous waste roundup, but as you know, that is a one-time-a-year annual program. So administration, at the request of the Agricultural Service Board, researched a variety of options for used oil collection. There was quite a broad range in pricing depending on the style and type of setup that was being used. The figures were very basic and do not include site preparation, additional access to collection containers, such as stairs or ramps, or additional containment. There also could be other associated costs with meeting relevant safety codes and legislative requirements. But do note that there is grant funding through the Alberta Recycling Management Authority. They'll match 50% of eligible costs up to $15,000 per application site. So after reviewing the information provided by administration, the ASB did pass the motion that administration bring to council the recommendation to bring back a proposal for used oil filters, antifreeze, and empty oil containers for the 2025 budget presentations. One other background item, I did reach out to the town because they do accept used oil at the landfill, And so when speaking with the manager, he estimated that they average about 7,000 liters per year. And this obviously is here, just at the landfill south of us. And they do have to pay for the oil to be hauled away.
All right, very interesting. Councillor Western, you got your heavy light on, go ahead.
Yeah, you actually answered more of my question, but more of a comment. I know any of the stuff, my batteries, my used electronics, any of that stuff I take to the town and there's no charge, so. And actually have taken a little bit of used oil, but not very much, just from changing a lawnmower over, but yeah, and I've never had an issue, just go right through and they tell you, and actually sometimes they help me unload my things, so.
All right, does anybody else have any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Gunderson.
Yeah, we have a pretty good system over here on this side of the river, Kara. This was more for consideration for Breton, Lindale, that they're kind of left out in the cold there on this sort of stuff. It does cost money to haul this oil away. The county has a tank in the back shop here where we collect up to 7,000 liters, but they just come, they have a schedule, they come pick it up, but it is $75 to come and load that tank up and haul it away. It's, yeah, like I said, this was more of just a trial project, and the ASB was just like, let's see how this works so we can figure out if it's something that we'd want to consider. So we thought, well, let's set up one, let's put it at that far east of the county so that they have access to something, and then if it's successful, then we could add more in.
Okay, Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
Yeah, when I talked with a member from administration and utilities department in Leduc County, they were indicated, at least that individual indicated to me that they have a new individual or new company that's picking up their oil and that they are getting paid for it. So there seems to be some differing information, I guess, that seems to be out there. I think there's more possibilities that we can get even a minor revenue out of the project that we put in place. I mean, if you look at what I understand Leduc told me. So I would like to see us proceed with a pilot project, as Glenn explained, for the east side, and have something that we can maybe look at a site location like, say, Lindale, or pick a site, but Lindale at least is one of them that I would suggest, and see what it would cost to do a site-specific analysis, like, so you're not coming back and saying, it could be. Let's pick a site, let's say, okay, based on that site, here's what it would be, and then we have something that we can really talk about at the budget discussions. Right now, you know, to say it's about $25,000 is nothing, at least in terms of being able to say a real cost figure. So I would be prepared to make a motion that would direct, but I'm not, I'm just talking right now, that would direct, give that direction to pick a site and come back with most precise costs we can for that site.
Okay. So 7,000 liters annually here at the waste transfer, or at the landfill. That's not very much. That's not much at all. So, but each of our waste transfer stations once a year during the toxic waste roundup will take used motor oil and ethylene glycol antifreeze, as I understand it. Is that right?
To the chair, I don't recall, because I know we went from hosting the hazardous waste roundup at all of our transfer stations once a year to,
Right.
I believe we reduced the number of sites. My apologies, I don't have this information. It is managed by utilities, but
Okay,
I know
so,
for sure we use the old shop yard
yeah,
as a central location. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, possibly Breton or a transfer station on the east side of the river.
yeah, Breton or Buck Creek, and I don't know which one. Mm-hmm. So if they bring a 20-liter pail, that's fine. I mean, they will take that. But what if you have a 45-gallon drum? What do you do with that? It's not something they can use. Okay, Councillor Brooks, go ahead if you want to weigh in.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit confused. or maybe I'm missing something. If the landfill by Drayton Valley takes the oil for free, I don't understand why, if you're able to take the oil from anywhere and bring it anywhere, you should be able to take it to the landfill. That's, you know, not within our borders, but within our borders. So I'm just a little confused on the utility of this and why some people are holding onto their oil and not just taking it to this landfill. Is it that they don't know, or is it something else? I don't know who I'm directing that to.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. Farmers have sometimes, you know, in the past there have been operators who would come to your farm and take your 45-gallon drum full of motor oil. They'd come right out to you and they'd pay for it. Some will do it free service. Now there is a charge, I understand. It's kind of been ebbing and flowing. Who wants this, and what the value of it is. And there was an incentive, I understand, that the provincial government was putting out, but that has been taken away. So where it's going to land right now, I don't really know, that's for sure. But yeah, go ahead, Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, I'm just not sure why, if this landfill is taking it, why do we need our transfer stations? Like, they're taking it for free, well, why would we have our transfer stations take it? I just don't know why we take on that expense if the service is already there. So that's, I don't know. I'm a little confused on that one.
Okay, maybe Councillor Gunderson can help us answer it.
Yeah, like I explained, the service is there and we use it. It's fairly close for us to get to. It's a 15-minute drive from me, but if you're where Councillor Ekstrom lives or Heinrich, you're a long ways away from that dump site. So yeah, it's free. They also will charge you though. If you have mixed garbage in there, they're not able to differentiate between that oil and the trash. So you might have a 20-pound bag of trash, but they'll charge you for the 300 pounds of oil that you bring in. So a lot of farmers have been stung with that. What we're finding more and more is that farmers are just collecting the oil. There's lots with barrels that they'll collect 7 or 8 barrels of it because they're not sure what to do with it. Like you said, there was a time when people would come out to your farm and pick it up and give you a handful of cash for it. And that's a broader discussion. Maybe with the Alberta oil recycling program, maybe they should be asking for a more upfront fee for used oil, or for when you're buying that used oil, so that you can give it to those people. I think that's been reduced, and that's what's causing this issue that we're faced with now. But there could be a market for this oil as well. Modular green technologies can use that oil to create diesel oil, diesel fuel, and energy. So it wouldn't hurt to have just an experimental unit. We could do it in a sea can, and if there's a total failure, you can always reuse that sea can for something else and call it good. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to, like I said, we're getting calls from farmers on that east side, and yeah, we're just trying to address this issue. I haven't had any calls on Division 1. Everybody seems to be okay there, but we don't have quite the farming establishments that are in those other, on that east side, right? So a lot of farmers too, I guess. I mean, they don't know what to do with it, and it ends up on brush piles. So they'll dump that whole pail on a brush pile and burn it, which isn't good for anything. So it would be better to collect that, because if you collect it, it can be reused for when you're making asphalt. They use that used oil, they blend it in with some other fluids so they can burn it easily, and that's what heats up that whole kettle for making asphalt. So it's a reusable product, and it's got value in it, but right now it's either in barrels that are leaking out in fields, or it's being thrown out onto the ground, or burnt up in brush piles, and not a lot of it's getting to where it needs to be.
Councillor Wilsey, go ahead.
So if we went the C-CAN route, would that C-CAN be at the transfer station? Because otherwise, who would let them in and out? Yeah.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's the right thing. Councillor Brooks, go ahead.
So I guess through the chair to Councillor Gunderson. I'm just wondering, so are we going to, once we have the oil, are we going to utilize it or market it? Like, I understand that there's utility to it, but, once we have it, what are we doing with it?
I think for now, we would do the same what we do. We just have a truck come and pick it up. It's a $75 fee to have them come load it up. But in the future, if there's a potential that we could utilize that fluid and add it to our, and make something of value with it, then we could. We'd be in a position to.
We can take that step right there. Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's more than just collecting the oil, it's also the filters and the drain, the containers that go with it, and also if we put it there, as it has been suggested for the antifreeze as well. That's another product that's environmental difficulty in getting rid of, and when you're changing your fluids on the tractors and the like, it's another product, so it's more than just the oil. And I think I'm prepared now if you're, okay, sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah, go ahead, Rudy.
In addition to the conversation, and I think this is a kind of a pilot program that we could look at implementing. One of the other items that's been discussed in the realm of this conversation but hasn't really been analyzed is the implementation of extended producer responsibilities by the province of Alberta. I don't know where that's going to go with respect to used oil and used filters, but I think the province is clearly moving to put this responsibility on the producers of the product. So ultimately, we may get paid by the producers of the product to collect it, but that's to be seen here in the years ahead.
Okay, the one thing that I know for sure that is somebody's already invented the wheel, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We haven't looked very far. Made one site visit to Leduc County. We've made a site visit here to the Drayton Valley landfill, and there's more information that we could acquire to determine what's the best way to handle this hydrocarbon problem. So somebody's already done it. We just need to find out the best way to handle it. But go ahead, Councillor Heinrich, if you want to take a crack at a motion, go right ahead.
I move to direct administration to come back with a price for the Lindale site, landfill site, or whatever it's called, and to come back with a price concluding a CCAN and an enclosed collection facility for used oil, antifreeze, and filters.
Okay, are you suggesting
and have it brought back for the budget?
For the budget?
Yes.
Budget discussions?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Any questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's unanimous. It's carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 10, community services, CAT management options. Lee Chambers, you have the floor, sir.
Good morning, Council. So at the September 17th, 2024 regular Council meeting, the following motion was made, moved by Glenn Gunderson to direct administration to develop and bring back Council recommendations for the inclusion of control of cats in hamlets and subdivisions within the Brazeau County Animal Control Bylaw. So managing cat populations, as Council may recall, from the discussion from September 20th, 2022, regular meeting of Council is not something that rural communities typically undertaken. During this meeting, a draft animal control bylaw, I've attached attachment 1 was presented, which would have resulted in limiting the number of household pets, cats, in implementation of a license program for residents within the designated hamlets. This would include dogs as well, and that's in manufactured home parks, compact country residential subdivision. This would also result in increased operational costs and sourcing and managed facilities, as well as the licensing process. So just for background, the concerns about cats, especially hamlets and named subdivisions, is, well, I've approached this on a threefold: abandoned buildings, feral cats, and then responsibility for pet ownership. So abandoned buildings, and to one typically has been the Rocky Rapids. So administration has discussed options with Rocky Rapids Community League. Like, it's not a county-owned building, so we can't just move in, but I could, if council wishes, administration can pursue these discussions to include possible demolition of the building. And then as far as feral cats, which seems to be the main issue, and feral cat is an untamed, evasive. They've either never had any contact with humans, or it's been so long since they've had contact that they're not socialized anymore. For this reason, many shelters and communities purposely exclude feral cats from their operations and/or bylaws. Due to the complexity of the addressing feral cats, administration recommends testing the community's level of concern by including possible plebiscite questions on this ballot for the next general election. The question can help council confirm if residents agree that there is a feral cat problem, test potential mitigations. I do caution council, catching them is one thing, but you know what to do with them after you do capture them. I do recall City of Fort Saskatchewan recently has been in the news, so careful on your wording and how we address this. I know the mayor had to do a public apology for her comments. So, alternatively, council could implement a trap, neuter, return program. Feral or outdoor cats are spayed and neutered, vaccinated, ear-tipped, and then returned to their outdoor home. And then finally, responsible pet ownership. I would suspect that is where feral cats have all originated, so the council could amend the animal control bylaw to establish parameters regarding cat ownership for designated areas, similar to the proposed changes discussed at the September 20th meeting. But an alternate option would be implementation of a spay-neuter rebate program for residents of Brazeau County. This would allow for residents to receive a financial assistance to encourage management of the cat population. Council can establish a rebate at a percentage of the cost of spaying or neutering and set an annual cap for funding availability. Typical cost for a cat is anywhere from $200 to $440 for getting this procedure done. I know that a number of our councillors have mentioned that they've done this to a number of cats, and so this might go in, a start off as far as encouraging responsible pet ownership, as far as not, where the feral cat program, or where the feral cats have originated. This might head this off. Anyway, with upcoming budgetary meetings, administration can prepare further details on options to address cat population based on council's preference and direction. These details would include proposed costs for any programs to be implemented and any required policy for implementation on council's preference. So any and all options, and I have a number of recommended actions if you want to pursue those.
All right, thanks, Lee. Anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Chambers? Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
We live in a rural area. For the most part, I think we're all responsible, or should be responsible, for the pets, animals we tend to have in our care, or at least around us. As far as the feral cats, cats don't have boundaries, I guess. So a lot of times they become described as feral cats because there's no identified way of anyone wanting to be able to assign whose cat that is. But in urban areas, this is our more hamlet areas, I guess. This is probably where we're seeing some of our problems. more so than in the rural areas. In the rural areas, there is no problem as far as I'm concerned from what I hear. And I mean rural. So I don't think the spading is a solution either, because all you got, the same cat that you catch and you release after you've spaded it, you've got the same cat creating the same nuisance effect in people's yards. It's just now that you've went through the cost of spading a cat that no one wants, or that seems to have no ownership, and no one that's taken control of it to any degree. So I don't see that as a solution. So I think what we need to do is, and if we look at the plebiscite that staff has recommended, I think that's going to be a very controversial plebiscite because of where most of our population is in the rural area. It's not in the hamlet area. So even if there was a plebiscite, cautiously and carefully worded, I don't think the outcome would likely come back in a favorable manner, at least in my opinion, because of the population distribution of rural versus hamlet. So I think we're just creating additional work that is not necessarily going to bring the results that people may hope for. So from my point of view, if there's any solution or any monies to be spent, it's to first of all, to get rid of the habitat like in Rocky Rapids, where seemingly is one of our problem areas. Try to get rid of that habitat building, so I would support the #1 resolution that's here. The other ones are, I think, up to the landowners or the owners of the area. And if we're going to do anything to catching cats that are feral, I sure wouldn't support us paying to neuter them and then turning them loose again. That to me is a waste of money. If you're catching the feral cat, that's definitely seen as not immediately put down.
Councillor Gunderson.
Through the chair to the Director of Community Services, thank you. This was a nice report again. I appreciate your warning as far as what we say online, right? For sure, that sure can bite a person. I agree with abandoned buildings being removed. That's a good idea. If we can talk with the Rocky Rapids Hall and see if we can't work something out. The alternative option that I hadn't thought about was the spay-neuter rebate program. And this might be that little coaxing that we're looking for, and that was a really good idea, I think. I would be in support of that. Thank you.
Mr. Chambers, do we know if the Rocky Rapids Community League has any reserves set aside?
I mean, the community hall isn't active. The board still has their, they're active, the board, but the community hall isn't running, but it's only active because of the skating rink.
Right.
So I don't think they have a lot of money. No, I don't believe so.
Councillor Wiltsey, go ahead.
The spay and neuter program, I get it, but I don't want the county to put money into something. You spay and neuter this cat, like when I do it, and they usually live around our shop, but you're throwing that cat back into the wild and it'll be eaten by a coyote probably. So I think it's an unnecessary expense, but this whole thing came by.
That option there, that's for the residents. Rebate.
I know, but
Taking
it
your
comes
person
from
cat.
it comes from the county.
$50.
No, did you read this?
Cost. This would be determined by us. And that cat goes back to doesn't get left out in the wild, it goes back to the resident that owns the cat.
But if you trap a cat, a feral cat that's bothering you,
This isn't for feral cats, is it?
I would think so. I don't think we're going to pay for a owner to spay their cat. Maybe I'll come back to, do you want me to come back?
Sure, if you like, yeah. whatever you're
Having a sidebar?
Okay. Okay, yeah, it's 5 to 12, so Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
Well, I think the community hall of Rocky Rapids they do get some funding to maintain their power and electricity and that, don't they still?
Yeah, for the water and things, yeah,
And
and
so-
their board insurance.
So when they're getting those funds, in order to get that, I believe they'd have to show us their financial statements?
Yeah, we can get them to apply as far as a cost to demolish, and then we can
So
go
they
through that
should-
process, yeah.
They should show, we should be able to see through that financial statement what resources they still have in hand. Dallas, is what I'm trying to get at?
That's what I'm getting at.
So that's what I would suggest. There's one source of trying to eliminate or find a solution with that facility, at least from my point of view. And with the other ones, I already made my comments, so I just wanted to make sure I clarified on the Rocky Rapids facility.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wiltsey, you want to go again? Go ahead.
Mr. Gunderson pointed out that yeah, I read one paragraph and he was going off another paragraph, so he was absolutely right. It was for the cat population, which includes house pets. However, this whole thing came from one person, and I did a little, like, I have a problem with feral cats, but they're feral. They're not my next door neighbor's cat. I did a little, I don't know, survey, and a lot of people in Rocky Rapids don't have this issue. Like, they're not bothered by this. So I don't know where to go. I really don't. It's really a hard, like it's hard to please a certain amount of people when the rest of the people don't
Have an issue.
have an issue.
Okay, I know you want to push that button, Cody. Okay, thank you. I know that we have to deal with the community, the center. The building is, it's done. So we got to fix that some way, one way or another, and that will address part of the problem with the feral cats. Councillor Westerland, go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with the earlier comments. I'm just looking at page 114 with the first recommendation and this the third recommendation.
Okay, yeah, I did bring this when I was elected. I was campaigning, talking to people, and it came up quite a few times that people wanted to have a spay-neuter program. I brought it to council. You guys didn't want to pursue it, so we're back here again. I know it would be popular. Is that our lane to be in? I don't know. That I don't know. I certainly don't want to see a plebiscite question on the ballot. I think there's a better way to acquire that information. However, it is approaching the noon hour. If we have a motion, Councilor Brooks, looks like you're ready to go. Go ahead.
I move to direct administration to work with the Rocky Rapids Community League to pursue discussions to address concerns with the building, including possible demolition of the building.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Carried? All right, thank you. Is that as far as you want to go today? Councillor Western, go ahead.
I move to direct administration to develop a spay-neuter rebate program for consideration in the budget 2025 meetings.
Discussion. Hearing none, seeing none, I'll call. All right, Brazeau County Council, I'll call the meeting back to order. And I guess we could work on the bank reconciliation statement if Colin is available. Colin, are you there? Okay, if not, I guess we can just skip ahead a little bit to correspondence. Okay, yeah, are there any questions for the bank reconciliation statement? Comments, statements? If there are none, I guess we can adopt it. Hearing none, seeing none. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Westland.
I move to receive the bank reconciliation statement for information.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Councillor Westland, how do you vote? Carried, sorry. Okay, motion's carried. Carried unanimously. Thanks, Colin, we won't be needing you. We'll talk to you later today. Item number 12, general matters, there are no reports. Item 13, correspondence. Minister Environment. There we go, Rebecca Schultz. I like the way she opens her letter. It's nice to see you at the AB Munis convention. Bart and I ran into her and spoke to her for a bit. It's always a pleasure. Any comments or any direction with this correspondence? Council, just want to adopt it, or you want to further it? Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
I move to receive the letter from Minister Schultz for information.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Reports are next. Breton District FCSS, no meeting, no report. MPC, our agendas and minutes are on the website. If you have any questions or concerns with MPC, our information is there. Just read them and we ask questions as you see fit. I've got a lot to report there. Anything else, Donna? Do you have anything to add for MPC? No. Okay. Councillor Wiltsey, West Central.
There was a meeting, I missed it because we were in Wainwright. Same with Eleanor Pickup, I missed that meeting.
Okay.
RMA Wildfire Group, they brought in, our last meeting was, it was so good. We brought in speakers from agriculture, and we brought in a speaker from, I shouldn't say we, they brought in a speaker from Treaty 6. And I'll give these 2 cards to our CAO. I really think that the ASB board would really benefit if he came out and did a speech, because on wildfire in ag.
Okay.
And then this guy from Treaty 6, if he could come to council and talk to us about how the First Nations and us need to build a stronger partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that was the Wildfire Working Group. Early childhood development, working on a structural plan to either build onto the ECDC or build onto the pool or build onto one other place with this free, well, nothing's free, but with this grant money from the federal government for daycare. And then we will do a presentation to council here. Yeah, it's totally funded by the federal government, this grant. Like we would not have to pay half or like other grants are. They would just totally fund it. So that's all for me.
Okay, any questions? If not, Councillor Brooks, take it away.
Take it away. Library board, I didn't have a meeting. The Brazeau Foundation, I attached the report, it is in the additions. If there's any questions there, I can try to answer them, or I can find the answer. And the Recreation Board didn't have a meeting, and that's actually my fault. We postponed a meeting because we didn't have administrative support, and we were going to reschedule the meeting, and I didn't get on that, so we didn't have a meeting this month because of that. And I think that's all. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Councillor Gunderson, Drayton Valley Muni Library.
My report is attached, but I'll skip over it. So yeah, we went in our draft budget meeting and we finalized the budget. So this year there will be the same amount of money that we requested last year for the library. We were able to budget or balance that budget without any increases to Brazeau County or the town of Drayton Valley. Other than that, if you can read the report, if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heinrich, ASB.
Meetings tomorrow. So, and then Drayton Valley FCS, no meeting. Eagle Point Blue Rapids Council meeting, since our last council meeting, no meeting. Pembina Area Senior Group meeting is coming up on the 28th of this month. It was earlier, but it was canceled because of problems with everything. Renton Library Board, wasn't there. I'm not there.
You keep not going to that meeting. Okay, physician recruitment, Councillor Westerland.
I apologize. We had a meeting, just looking and discussing some of our strategic planning items that we had on there. We may actually redo our strat planning. Interesting enough, there is still talk of a third clinic opening up in town, but the other two clinics haven't been very welcoming of that or those discussions. So that's proved to be interesting. Discussion around that table. Councillor Brooks attended, presented his resolution to get some background and feedback from them, and I think that was well received. And I think that's it. Our next meeting is actually it might be tonight, but we have a new meeting coming up. District Community Learning Association, not too much to report. This board's kind of gone back just to the basics. It's a brand new board, including myself, are fairly new on there, so it's just kind of going through the motions right now. So from the governance side of stuff, I've been helping a little bit with that. And I think that's it. There was nothing that jumped out on the agenda or in my notes on this one, so.
Okay, Councillor Heinrich.
To Kara, with the physicians recruitment, with that, if you can say, with the proposed new clinic, would that be new doctors?
We're gonna put a request into those that seem to be spearheading the new clinic to come and talk to the group and see if there's anything that we can do to help, and then maybe clear up some of the information that we're hearing. Yes, it would be potentially bringing in doctors in, and nurse practitioners as well.
Okay, so it would increase our healthcare, the numbers, put it that way.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Reeve Guion, are you calling in to speak to any of your reports? No call in from Reeve Guion. All right, so we'll just skip right down to the bottom and adopt the reports. And Councillor Heinrich, go ahead.
Move to receive the council reports as presented.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 35, agenda package, meeting dates. Invitation for Reeve to attend the Rotary Awards, October 17th. So, was Reeve able to attend this one? Not at all. Okay. I did not check that. For a what? Or we decline? Okay. Are there any feelings? Councillor Westerland, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna make a motion to send the re-vendor designate.
Okay.
I don't know, can somebody attend? Dallas, can you attend or no?
I'm just checking the date here, October 17th. Page 139. I might be able to make it, but I think I'm a little bit tight with my time.
Is somebody else from council available?
Anybody want to go to that one? Oh yeah, this is 5:30 to 9. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to make that one. I'd like to though. Anybody want to attend on behalf of the county?
If the answer is no, I'll make my I'll make a motion. Okay, I move to receive item 35A for information and to send regrets.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Chamber of Commerce Annual Awards Night, Reeves presentation, October 24th. And again, the Reeve will not be able to attend. Okay. Okay, so maybe just a motion for Reeve and designate.
I
Go ahead.
move to approve the Reeve and or designate attendance at the Chamber of Commerce Annual Awards Night.
That's good. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Carried. RCMP Town Hall combined with Council Open House Night. That's November.
So we've been in discussions with our local staff sergeant, who's been trying to pick a date to set up the RCMP's town hall. And they're gonna bring in a speaker that does a crime prevention by environmental design. And there's a conflict because your open house is the same week. So we're just throwing out the possibility, did you want to share the limelight and have them do the presentation here? As we have the facility, we'll have the food and we'll have the crowd. Otherwise, it might just be difficult to get the
Yeah.
same people out 2 nights in that same week. However, completely respectful of council who just wishes to have their own. Ryan won't be offended at all.
Okay. Thoughts, council? I like the idea. Councillor Gunnarsson, go ahead.
I like the idea. I move to have administration work with the RCMP to have the town hall combined with the county open house, November 12th, 2024.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Holy Trinity Achievement Awards, October 18th. Cody, you want to take that one?
Can somebody attend? They were severely disappointed. Nobody showed up to their grad in May, to the point that I actually heard about it. So, that the principal reached out to me because she knows me through another avenue. So, I think we should maybe try to send somebody. I'm not here, otherwise I would go.
Yeah, I know they know we would like to attend, but sometimes we just have conflicting schedules. I cannot attend.
Let me just double check and see.
Is there anybody who can take a swing at this one? Very. Speaking opportunity, great opportunity to.
You know what, I can do it. I'm actually here and my meetings end up. Can Ken write me something? Because I won't have time. I'm not gonna have 0 time this week to prepare something. Okay. If somebody wants to make a motion, I can attend.
Okay. Councillor Donna Wiltsey, go ahead.
I move to have Kara Westerland attend the Holy Trinity Achievement Awards.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, just closed session remains, and there's only one closed session. Did I get that right? There's no addition on that one? Okay. Take us there, Cody.
I move to take us there.
Yep.
I move to go into closed session, land, Birchwood Lagoon, Web Section 27.
Thank you. Order, please. All right, Brazeau County Council is back in session. I'll call the meeting to order. Is there any direction coming from administration? And it appears there is. Does anybody like to make a motion? Coming out of closed session? Donna Wiltsey, go ahead.
I move to direct administration, as discussed in closed session, in order to attempt to conclude the Birchwood Lagoon file as soon as possible.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Is there anything else? Anything we missed today? Hearing none, seeing none? Okay, we can adjourn then. Counselor Heinrich, go ahead.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. We are adjourned. Thank you and good afternoon.